Okay. Recording. Lost my note. Well, this is the October video chat with fans. I have several announcements this time. Here, let me find my list. Okay, the first, more Freeman's Mind coming this month, I think. I can't promise it because it does depend on the sound editor adding effects. And if you saw the last episode, I think that certainly helped it. I will promise to have them voiced and edited otherwise this month. So I'll make a note on Twitter when that happens. So, but probably have more this month. I am doing something for Halloween. However, I kind of don't want to say what just because I may have trouble living up to it. And I am going to do something though. I don't want my ambition to just wreck my life again. So I'll just stay in the dark. I hope to have it out before Halloween, what I plan on doing for it. So we'll see how that goes. Let's see. Oh yeah, and this month, just because maybe I have time for it, maybe I don't, but I really want to do it anyway. I'm gonna do more streaming sessions of the Lecarde Chronicles 2. I'm gonna do it till I beat it. I mean, it may not all be in one session, but I'm gonna do it this month. So maybe each Saturday or Sunday, something like that, if you're interested in that. But or I'll do it till I beat it or until I get to a boss and it becomes apparent I'm not going to be beating that boss. Because I've played a few games where, you know, you can go through the game and then the boss is 10 times harder than anything else in the game. So I'll get to that point. If there's time, maybe I'll do a play session with fans, but I'll see. It might be tighter than I want. I don't want to promise that, but more Castlevania stuff coming. Let's see. Oh yeah, minor news. YouTube sent a cryptic email where they said my account is verified, and then they're going to restart the verification application process in November, which before they were going to start that in October and then you lost the verification. They weren't clear to me if I'm losing it again in November. I even posted it on Twitter because it's like they were saying the exact opposite or just, it was vague. So I don't know, but that shouldn't affect the Halloween videos. The worst thing from being not verified is I think you might have the video limit knocked down to 15 minutes again, which that would be rough. But hopefully this is a non-issue, and I don't have to worry about it till November anyway. Oh yeah, I also discovered Gmail can stealth block emails. The sound editor, William Smith, on the last Freeman's Mind, he sent me multiple messages that weren't in spam. I just never got them. And there was nothing that unusual about them. They did have Dropbox links. However, I think it may have figured it out. He has a Comcast email address. So maybe it checked enough boxes for Google to declare it as spam and not tell you. Like they're so confident that it's spam, they're not even gonna send it to your spam folder. They're just never gonna send it, never gonna deliver it to you. So even though he sent me dozens of emails in the past, you know, you would think, you know, I am not a programming genius, but you would think if an AI is doing all this learning, you could give it a rule that if you've replied multiple times to an address, maybe mark that one as probably not spam. Because, you know, if you're replying to it, because I've had a bunch of emails from him, but, you know, that's why I don't work at Google, you know, so. I thought I'd announce that though. Gmail will absolutely stealth, or I call them stealth block some emails. So yeah, they're not even his email address because I was able to get messages as a reply from him, but not direct. So, oh yeah, and some real minor follow-up. Well, some not so minor. On the Dead Game News video, a couple of things I left out on that. Some people are quick to point out that there are some advantages of being able to resell used games. Like if you have a big collection and want to get rid of them. There are some advantages to that. I guess from my perspective, you can save even more money buying games on sales And then even if you don't like the games, I think you still come out ahead money-wise. So like, let's say you have $30 or something and you bought 5 games. The money you get back from reselling those versus the price you got them at, I think it comes to less than just buying them on just the big sales, because that's pretty much the only time I buy games is when there's big sales. So, and the other thing, that's just sort of where I lean on my opinion on that issue. I am not seeking to block or endorse that law because, again, my entire angle of attack is stopping dead games. So I was just kind of throwing that out there and showing how it connected. So, you know, if you were staunchly opposed to that, well, I'm not your enemy on that. If you want to kill games, then yeah, then I'm your enemy. But like for the used games thing, I felt like it was going to lead to less games and less money in your pocket, really. But yeah, some updates on that. Several people emailed me. I'm revising my plan a little bit. Turns out there's some French game preservation groups out there. I'm going to try and contact as many as I can, you know, with translation help, and explain what I'm doing, and then see what they say. If I get no replies, then no replies. But then I'll try and contact that consumer group, like lay out what I'm asking for. I was going to ask for 2 things. One, just the real obvious case that, you know, if these are considered goods under French law, then there has to be some laws that apply for planned obsolescence or, you know, intentionally destroying the product that, you know, with no possibility of repair or no reasonable possibility of repair. Now, that will only apply to non-subscription games. And I figure while I'm at it, we may as well ask if we can get some provision in the law for preservation of subscription games after they end. So let's say it's an MMO and it shuts down. Well, let's have something saying that, I mean, let's try. You know, there's no legal basis for this, but why not if we're contacting them anyway? So let's say, you know, it's an MMO or something like Stadia, and then they eventually shut down the service so nobody can access it anymore. Let's say within a year or something, they have to release some attempts for preservation in order to run the game again. So that could just be server code or the server executable. Doesn't necessarily have to run on, you know, a regular machine, but the point is just some sort of effort for preservation. Then I'll try and update that list a little bit that I had in the fraud video to kind of make the case for these games that, you know, yes, they are being destroyed, a lot of them. And it's just dumb luck when we're able to resurrect them after that. And I'll try and contact the group, but hey, maybe I'll check with these other preservation groups. Maybe they have some ideas. Maybe a petition will help to show the group. Or, hey, maybe I'll make a video, a short one, where I encourage pretty much all French consumers. I'll give like the list of games. If you've spent any money on these games, contact them. I'll have French subtitles hard encoded into that. Maybe I'll even try and do a few sentences of French, not the whole video for sure. But I'll see. I think France is #1 place to start with this stuff for sort of the war on games as a service. I think it's ground zero, the place to start. Way better odds than the US. Oh yeah, one thing, feel free to email me on this, you know, rosswscott@gmail.com. The one thing I'm really not sure, like even with this law ruling, is how do free-to-play games enter into it? I mean, I have my own outlook on it, but it's not clear to me how that is under French law, especially with this ruling. So, because I would want a provision for that too. I mean, for free-to-play games where you pay money into them, if they're 100% free, it's just pure freeware, then no, I don't think any laws should intervene, because that's, you know, you're kind of interfering in this stuff. But if people paid money, like they wanted to have an upgrade in the free-to-play game, or, you know, get an item or something, how do the laws apply to that? So I want to see protection. So I'm going to ask for everything, pretty much. in as non-nuclear explosion type of change required of the industry as I can. What I'm asking for, if the game industry knows they have to do it, is so cheap. It would barely even impact revenue. I mean, it would just, like I think I said in the video, I think it'd be like less than 1% of development budget if it's done that way from the beginning. So I'm trying to make it as easy as possible in the industry and not destroy the game. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, I think France is the place to do it on after seeing the ruling. Even if it gets overturned, I'm asking for something a little different than just being able to resell your game. And I think that's if. Oh yeah, no, one more announcement. Okay, I totally will not have time for this month, but it's something I think I may want to experiment with at some point. Oh yeah, first off, Game Dungeon is not ending. I just needed to kind of rein it in some so I could kind of. Basically, I wanted to step away from the thing where, yeah, Game Dungeon this month or 2 this month, because that was just, it would just balloon, and then I'm just working around the clock to deliver on something that I never thought I was going to take that long. So it's more like Game Dungeon is transitioning to when it's done kind of thing. But that said, I still want to pursue the idea of games where, so Game Dungeon is not ending. Some people were kind of confused about that, but something where, like, I pick a game that I'm maybe kind of less committed to, or I feel like I need to just show everything and kind of build this kind of narrative around it, where I need to be more hands-on with the editing. It's something where maybe it's a game people are just kind of interested in, want to hear me just kind of give a spiced up talk about, where I'm kind of less involved personally with it. I mean, I'll still try to make it interesting, but what I thought I might do is, for games like that it might qualify, write the script, voice the script, hand it off, and then hand it off to an editor. Or yeah, get gameplay footage, maybe somebody else could help record it. Hand that off to an editor and let them go, I'll explain what I was thinking, let them go after it, and then, kind of split the proceeds as fairly as I can, probably like a 50-50 thing minus a percentage for other people that helped, and figure out how my taxes work on that, because I still might have to pay taxes on their half unless it follows these weird channels in Polish law. But, I mean, it's something reasonably fair, and then if it would be different, and I wouldn't call it Ross's Game Dungeon, it'd be something separate, but it would be kind of similar. And if I like their style, I can maybe go ahead with that. So it's somebody saying no, Ross, no. I don't know. I might want to try it as an experiment. It's and somebody's saying, wasn't this the intention with Legend of Kyrandia? And it's that same person saying no. Well, I could try it as an experiment and see how I thought. But the thing is, I would have to like that person's editing style to begin with. So that's why I'm mentioning this now. If you think you're an editor and you would be interested in that, show me a video. It doesn't have to be about games or anything. Just that it kind of shows your editing style. And if I sort of like that presentation, it would still be my voice. I'd still be writing it, and I would still have sort of final cut. Like if I thought one part just doesn't work at all, I would kind of send them back a message. So, I mean, I think it's worth trying it, because the thing with the Kyrandia and the ski game episode was, the problem is when I have more hands-on, I keep wanting to just make these changes and kind of make it better and push it. And I'd rather save all that energy either for the movie or just regular Game Dungeons, that sort of thing. Where if it's a game I'm not super into anyway, or that I have something like I really have to talk about, but the audience wants me to talk about it, then fine, maybe I could kind of let somebody else handle a little bit more of that. But because then I could literally be done with it in maybe 3 days or 4 days, something like that, because I'm doing the voicing. Actually, someone, Spencer, he helped me in the Dead Game News and Trackmania. He's doing a great job just cutting down my raw takes and then knowing if I need to redo some lines. So So I could just write this, record it, write a bunch of notes, send it, that's it. I'm done essentially until it comes back, and then I kind of review it and then just see if there's anything I really need to change and send back some notes. So I don't know, I like the idea of just having more videos out. So, but we'll see. If I'm not happy with how it's going, I won't do it. So, but yeah, I just want to try it. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. You know, hey, Freeman's Mind was an experiment. Game Dungeon was an experiment. So look at it that way. Okay, so, but yeah, if you think you might want to take your hand at that, go ahead and email me. Or you're working on a video and you think it'll be done in 2 months, and that would be a good sampler of what your style is. And I don't think I want like super fast, sort of spastic cutting the way some YouTube videos have. Just, you've seen how I do Game Dungeon, so something like that, or something that's kind of pleasing to watch, you know, that sort of thing. But, because, yeah. The editor is sort of a second director, and I've lost notes here. Okay. And now we'll get to submitted questions, and this one may take longer, but I think what I'll do is, well, okay, I have a plan. We'll see if that works. I realize in some of these questions, if I don't have much to say, I'll sometimes stop and think if I can come up with something to say. So maybe I'll kind of do that less for some of these questions and just, well, I don't know, and then keep moving on, and then answer some. But we'll see how long this takes. So, okay. You said that your favorite holiday is Halloween. What fun Halloween costumes have you had? And if you've dressed up this year, what at? And if you're dressing up this year, what as? I don't have any plans to dress up this year. You know, actually, this year, I kind of want to break the curse. The curse has been, I want to say, ever since Civil Protection, Halloween Safety, I haven't had one free Halloween. It's always like I'm working around the clock, sometimes a day before, just right up to the minute trying to get a video out or something. And it's just, I haven't been able to enjoy Halloween. And I end up doing it like the day after or something, watching a movie, or I just get so burned out. So this time I'm really trying to get ahead of it. That's another reason I'm not promising. I'm not specifically saying what I'm doing for it. So when you're that busy, you know, it's like you just don't even have time for it. And plus, costumes can take some money. Costumes tend to take money or time, and that tends to be more at a premium for me. So I'd rather just, it has less appeal for me than it used to, I guess. Although I still do, like, I still had some time in the past to do like jack-o'-lantern carvings. I like doing that, but yeah, I want to break the curse. Let's see, but yeah, in the past, you know, a lot of them have kind of blurred. It's all kind of a blur. I remember once, I think in high school, I had, you know, on Halloween or the day before, you could kind of, everybody was going to school dressed up in costumes. I went, by coincidence, I had the supplies for this. I had a top hat lying around. I forget where that came from, but there was also a frock coat kind of looking thing that I got really cheap at a thrift store for like $1 or $2. And I already had kind of prescription sunglasses. So I went and I kind of looked like sort of rejuvenated Dracula from Bram Stoker's Dracula, you know, Dracula during the day, you know, with the top hat, the coat, the glasses, you know, got like Gary Oldman in the movie. And it came out looking pretty well. Actually, as I was walking to school, like this car like started honking, and then they shouted, "Ross, you look just like him," because I had the same sort of mustache or kind of light beard like in the movie. So I remember liking how that one came out. Let's see. I'm trying to think of others. Geez, it's really a blur to me. I guess the costumes weren't like the biggest appeal to me for Halloween. It was more just kind of spooky stuff and then going trick-or-treating. I mean, I remember trick-or-treating much more vividly than the costumes, or cover like a lot of ground. I guess. Yeah, I guess that's kind of shifted. I've heard that that doesn't happen as much, or else kids go to malls because there are too many psychos or something that would prey on kids. So that sucks. But well, I'm glad I got to experience, I guess, the original. So, yeah. Well, okay. I guess I should keep moving on. But yeah, I do like Halloween, and I hope to at least be playing some games or watching some movies at some point this month. And, well, I'm gonna do the Castlevania stuff regardless. I don't care if because that's been taking too long. So, has your hair even posed a problem for you? Well, when it's windy, there's that saying, "May the wind always be at your back." Well, not if you have long hair. It's pretty annoying if you have long hair. It gets in your face. I mean, I guess when I was younger, if you're walking, especially in America, if you're walking by the side of the road, you can get some slurs thrown at you. But that wasn't too often. I mean, it depends on your job, too. Yeah, somebody has things half right in a reply under this. I cut my hair before I went back to school getting a criminal justice degree because I knew there's no way I'm going to be taken seriously in that line if I have hair this long. I just grew it back once I decided that I was going to be able to kind of survive not doing that. Yeah, I had short hair when I did security work. But yeah, I mean, like even now, if I was working in a machine shop, I might want to cut my hair some more. Or if you're like real involved in let's say like martial arts or something, or your hair becomes a liability then, I just like how I look better with it. So that's the main reason. It's not, well, I guess now, even now when if I zip up a jacket, I have to be careful because you don't want to jam your hair in the jacket as you're zipping it up, but it's usually not a problem. Okay, moving on. Considering for all intents and purposes you are your own boss and all the projects you have to tackle, I'd like to know how you organize the time you dedicate to your videos. Do you have a minimum number of daily hours and you think you need to devote to work no matter what, a rigid schedule? Do you just work whenever you feel like it? Well, to be honest, I kind of think of you guys as the boss. If I was truly the boss, then I could just take days off. I could take stuff off or just cut my hours and okay. But look, the income goes down and I'm not even sure it necessarily bounces back if I were to do that too much. So it kind of keeps this kind of invisible, I wouldn't say slave driver, but somebody cracking a whip behind me in the back of my head. But let's see. But yeah, okay, for hours, it's kind of I tend to just work until I start to feel a little exhausted. And then if there's special circumstances, then I just push beyond that, if there's time pressure. And then if I know there's something coming, I guess what I work on can kind of shift. Actually, some of the stuff I was doing last month is sort of a long process that's kind of building up towards a later video I want to do. It's totally different, but the game list video and the games as a services fraud video is kind of like that too, where I'll work on pieces here and there because that's kind of what I wanted to be working on at the time. But at the same time, it's nah, I got to get back to Freeman's Mind or Game Dungeon or something. So, oh yeah, and the movie, I finally getting more done in the movie this month. I'm still tackling, basically I'm tackling the hardest part because there's a chance it might even get solved this month, in which case that's just going to be such a huge morale boost for me. Then the movie's going to become more like Civil Protection as far as the working process, and I know how to do that. So, but yeah, I think just if there's nothing unusual going on, I'm probably working about 70 hours a week. So it's probably coming in about 10 hours a day. But if there's something like I have to go to, like, let's say it's like a doctor's appointment or something, then I'll cut out of that. But yeah, it tends to be about 10 hours and then exercise and then like a little bit of time for just entertainment at the end of the day is usually when I do it. But if I'm trying to make a deadline, it can blow way past that. So did somebody say 70 hours a day? A week. I may have said that incorrectly. Okay, 70 hours a week. So about 10 hours a day. Yeah. Yeah, no, we're not breaking the laws of physics to make videos. I'd love to work less. But I kind of feel like I'm gonna regret it later if I do. That's like the constant feeling I get from it. So, but yeah, it's not rigid. I mean, if I'm sick, forget it. Like I'll sick and not trying to make a deadline. I remember I was pretty miserable when I made that Construction Bob Escapes from Hell episode because I was pushing through sickness for that one. I remember. Let's see. Although that's a good game to be miserable for. So, yeah, what can kind of shift is where those hours are being devoted, and then if there's a deadline coming up and I'm not where I need to be, then it's like I sort of hit the lever to be working more hours so it can, go to 15. I think I've really gotten away from trying to do all-nighters. It still occasionally happens, but I hate doing that so much now. Like I hate cutting my sleep to work on stuff. So, and you know what? That probably makes me a slacker by YouTube standards. I'll be 100% honest. Like these people who just get videos out constantly, they're probably doing it even more than that. So, I mean, where you basically have to be a workaholic in order to be, you have to either be a workaholic or else just have real low effort videos where just you get in front of a camera, talk for half an hour, talk for 15 minutes and that's it, So, to be, tread above water on YouTube is my perception. So, but I just, I'd rather take the hit on it and just take my chances not working more than that if I can avoid it. So, do you have any ideas or jokes you thought of for a video after the video was uploaded? I'm sure I have. I think I remember that, but I've probably forgotten them too. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, if it's a great joke that I remember, then it'll probably come back up in a follow-up episode or a future Freeman's Mind episode. I can't, again, I'm sure that's happened, but I don't think there were any complete, I think there was only one I remember that was like, oh, that was a really good one. I should have had it in there, but I don't even remember what that was for. So it just, a lot of thoughts go in and out of my head, So, okay. Are you aware of the issues of Chinese content farms flooding YouTube with fake or dangerous life hacks and recipes that simply don't work? And then they're saying this gets real cooks and bakers pushed off the platform because well, yeah, I just said, yeah, like I was talking about the competitiveness. See, this is what you need to do is stay competitive. Just grind away at it. It doesn't matter what you're doing. Any thoughts on this? I was not aware of that. I certainly believe it. It's YouTube's a machine, it wants you. It's like the treadmill that just kind of keeps going faster and faster, and this is what survives. Yeah, this is survival of the fittest in action. The fittest is not always the best or most ideal. It's just the best at surviving that situation. It's not necessarily what you want. I don't know much about that, but this reminds me, if you're concerned about this, well, not really concerned, but if this bothers you, I recommend a video by Maddox, Maddox. Look up Maddox Lifehacks. Here, let me look at the title. I remember that being pretty funny. and it addresses this exact sort of thing. Yeah, things you're doing. Yeah, things you're doing wrong every day. Everything by Maddox. So yeah, I recommend. Maybe I'll put a link to that on the video. So he has a good response to bad life hack videos. I remember. Yeah. I've seen a few of his stuff. I think he started out doing web articles. So, some of them are really funny. I highly recommend his Dawn of the Dead review. Here, let me see if I can probably have a link to that. I completely, yeah. Cancel the 2005 Academy Award. The contest is over. That's his Dawn of the Dead review. So it's a good read. It's a good read. But yeah, I don't have much of an opinion on that. I mean, it's unfortunate, but I wouldn't want to think of how you go about solving that. You probably don't solve that without big changes. And we all know how great YouTube is at big changes, so. Let's see. Considering the candy factor of Halloween, is the spooky season a rough time for you temptations-wise, or do you allow yourself a few cheat days for seasonal indulgences? You're asking, do I dance with the devil in the pale moonlight? I'm honestly in uncharted territory for me. I've been off sugar for the longest period right now, I think since I was like 20 or something. So you do develop more resistance being off sugar like that. It kind of goes back and forth like the tide, you know, except over like the period of a week or so. I don't know. I guess I'll just try to keep off it because it's, you know, I'll say being off sugar, my life is kind of better in almost every way except I want sugar. So that's kind of, you know, because better concentration, don't have as many mood swings, more energy, you know, just better moods in general. But yeah, I still want cookies, cakes, that sort of thing. So I'm actually less tempted by candy than I am like baked sweets. Baked sweets is where I really get tempted. So I don't know. We'll see what happens, I guess. Halloween's not here yet. Okay, next questions. Are you still as interested in VR as you were a few years out? Yeah, if anything, it's worse. I want to, like, I'm building it. I feel like I'm getting closer and closer to the promised land. Like, there's kind of two barriers on it. Well, one, most VR now, you need Windows 10 to run. I'm not on that yet. I guess I'm gonna have to switch eventually. I mean, I have the DK2 still, but I really just use that for tests because it's not that pleasant for the kind of games I want to play because stuff in the distance, it doesn't look so nice looking at it. I want a higher resolution. So, but I'm guessing the current sort of 1.5 generation of stuff is probably good enough for me. I mean, there's still the money barrier, which I don't mind crossing if it's going to last me a really long time. But that's the tricky part is there's just good stuff that's just going to keep coming. I mean, I think I read the new Pimax 8KZ or something. It's like the dual 4K screens. It's coming out this year. That one might be the best one for in some metrics. But yeah, but I guess I keep having this kind of fantasy in my head, which I think I might actually be able to achieve is like my sort of dream state is I can load up a game, go on VR, and just kind of, what I want, the other thing I really want eventually is one of those 360 treadmill things where you're sort of locked in place, but they have like kind of a dome with sensors on it that you walk on, and then the game will track that, so it's like you're walking around in reality. So I'd love to open up something like Skyrim or, you know, PlanetSide and just any of these big open world games and just walk around, look at everything as though I'm actually there, like literally walk around in them. And boy, if I get to that, I would want to use that I want to say almost daily basis. Like, you know, hey, you can have like a lunch break for half an hour. Like, oh, great. I get to go to another planet for my lunch break or something, something like that. And it would just be, I don't think I'd ever truly get tired of it. I mean, I'd be kind of living the dream then, or my dream anyway, just sort of explore fantasy that I'm acting out. No, as for actual gaming, I'm not sure I'm going to be able to hack it for other than just real simple things in VR. So, but there's so many games, there's so many great game worlds, and that's the other sort of battle. Like if I wanted to just dump the money on it, maybe kind of recklessly, I could probably have that VR set up for some games, tomorrow plus whatever the delivery time for the stuff was. I mean, I think it might be achievable right now. But the other battle is sort of, the bigger battle is sort of with software, because there's a lot of games that don't work in VR or stereoscopic or anything. And sometimes you can kind of hack them together to get working. But the lot you can't, but man, there's so many games. I want at least the game world or the map just sort of ported over to something like Unity or Unreal, so then it's accessible, because it's a more standardized thing. Vorpex can get a lot of them, but even then, Vorpex isn't as ideal as it could be, because it's still going to be that screen versus if you're walking around, it'd be great to have it all encompassing, But it's like, man, it's like I know it's fantasy, but I kind of want like just every nice looking 3D game ported over into some standard engine that works in VR. And it's like, I also want games, most of the time you don't want this in gaming, but for VR, I think you actually do, is to sort of convert a bunch of games into walking simulators, so there aren't enemies attacking you nonstop, or you'll die in 30 seconds if you're not at the top of your game. I want to play the game, and then I want to take the real life tour, Yeah, actually, there's something I may as well mention this. Well, sorry if you're sick of hearing about VR, but this got several votes. One YouTuber who covers a lot of VR, MRTV, I think, he started this Kickstarter, which I totally missed. I might have even been a part of it. He's apparently hosting, like he is in Germany, but if you can get out there, he's basically selling kind of ticket tours. He has like every VR headset just about. Like Pimax, Valve Index, the HP Reverb, Samsung Odyssey Plus, whatever. I mean, he has almost everything. And so for buying a ticket, he'll give you a tour, I think he said for like 90 minutes. You can try out all of them. I was thinking, man, I would love that, because you kind of have to just, if you're not wealthy, you kind of just have to operate blind and pull the trigger on this stuff. Whereas there are big differences between some of these. I mean, maybe I like the Pimax better than all the others because it has the bigger field of vision, or maybe the Reverb is what does it because it has high resolution, or maybe Valve's the best middle of the road one, and that's ultimately what I like more. I don't know, I think you can still get tickets even though the Kickstarter's ended. There'll just be more. If that I have no idea how. It wasn't clear to me but man, I might be tempted to, because I checked. I can fly. Yeah, I think he's in Dortmund, Germany, or something like that. Well, I forget. You can look it up. I checked. I could probably get a round trip flight there for about $60. So that and the ticket. I mean, that's some money, but man, I mean, because Germany's gonna have a higher expenses. But if I'm just there for a day, or maybe if I'm real ambitious, I go there real early in the morning and then just go to it. And then the same day I'm flying back. Man, I would love to check that out. And if somebody else does go there, feel free to tell me what you think. Which one you think is kind of best that you would want to use. But oh yeah, and the other battle, of course, is motion sickness. But I'm fingers crossed I'll be able to sort of combat that. Hey, maybe if I'm actually walking, or feels like I am, I won't get it if it's synced up well enough. So. Because I don't get it. I don't get it if for like room scale stuff. I don't get motion sick. But once your character's moving and you're not, then I don't know. Fingers crossed. I'll be able to get over that. But the biggest barrier is software. I just want to pour all these games into VR. Okay, so yeah, I'm like a maniac, just kind of like biding my time until I have VR Nirvana, or so I hope. So, Ross, any funny, crazy ex-girlfriend stories? Or am I gonna be upset if I answer this one? No, they're not. They weren't really that funny, I guess. I don't know. That's the sort of area where it might get more personal. I want to get into I mean, if it was really entertaining, I tell you, but I'd say most of I had a lot of like several like sort of short dates from people I met online, and I'd say the majority of them, it was the sort of situation where I probably wasn't what they were looking for, and if I had to guess, some of them are still looking to this day. Some girls have very specific sort of requirements they're looking for. I mean, well, I guess plenty of guys too, probably, but the girls I encounter where it's like they have like this real checklist and vision of what they're looking for, and that's yeah. I mean, it's good to have standards, but at the same time, you can kind of overdo it. So, but yeah, I don't think I really have any that are too entertaining. Although I will say one of the voice actors, I won't say who because he may not want me to say this. He had this sort of a fatal attraction on his hands where he was married, ended up getting divorced, but she went full stalker on him, and he literally got a restraining order against her. It still spooks him even now. I think he was like years after the fact, he was like trying to sabotage other like stuff on his profile, like online for other future dates or relationships. It's funny because I was telling him about that. So I recommended the movie Play Misty for me. It's a Clint Eastwood one. It's about, this sort of stalker ex-girlfriend. And I mean, the movie's okay, so, but I thought he might be able to relate to it. He told me, I can't remember if he couldn't finish it or it just wrecked him because it hit way too close to home for him. So, yeah, I thought that was kind of funny, but I mean, none of my ex-girlfriends, it's never been super dramatic. I think I have a certain level of filtering that I probably avoid. Yeah, I have another friend who's had really sort of ugly breakups where she might have been a sociopath. I don't know from what he told me. I think I probably don't even date people beyond a certain type of problem threshold to begin with. Because I can handle people who have personal problems, but if it's ones where it's like really kind of psycho-aggressive, you're the enemy stuff, or just, I probably wasn't meeting them to begin with, so. Okay, I should probably move on. Let's see. Have you regretted anything you said or done in Freeman's mind? Yeah, and some people mention how I got some part about the guns wrong. Yeah, I guess that part. Oh yeah, well, don't worry about the stuff about how the Eli Vance or Barney will connect to it. Don't worry, I'm pretty sure I can handle all that. No, not that I can really think of, but it's, what my mantra with Freeman's mind is just keep moving forward. Just, it's like Freeman. He's just not going to worry too much about it. Well, he does worry a lot, but he keeps moving forward. Okay, well, I shot all these people. Well, that's done. That's done. Okay, moving on. Okay, these people are dead. Okay, that exploded. Okay, that I wasn't able to say. Okay, the world's ending. Okay, just whatever. Keep moving forward. Keep moving forward. That's kind of the same attitude I take towards making these. Well, if I said something that didn't come out perfect, then oh well, or it could have come out better. there's still plenty of episodes left to do better. So, oh yeah, sorry if people were too disappointed by the length of the latest one. That's gonna happen sometimes. That's happened less for Freeman's Mind 2. But I mean, I think that was actually sort of normal length for Freeman's Mind 1. I just kind of go until I feel like there's natural stopping points, and that felt like a good stopping point to me, because yes, I can keep going past that point, but the next section I wasn't sure, it could end up taking a while, so I wasn't completely sure. So I just kind of have to, yeah, somebody's saying a few or 3 minutes. I want them longer than a few minutes, but I try to want them at least like 6 minutes, but oh, I don't know if people were complaining about that. I'm assuming they would be, because I think that might have been the shortest of the Freeman's Mind 2 episodes, but a lot happened in that episode, and I felt like that was the right place to stop it. So, let's see. I actually thought that sequence where, the boat sequence was going to last longer, but it actually just zipped right by. So, I mean, there's more of the boat sequence left, but it's that particular chunk. It felt longer when I was sort of scouting it out. Okay, so yeah, I guess the answer is no, not really. Okay, I understand your reasons for using PayPal instead of Patreon, but can you offer an alternative to PayPal for donating monthly via credit card? Yeah, saying that they're pulling some sneaky stuff with refunds. I guess, what are people's suggestions? I mean, maybe I could just make a Patreon account and just bury it, because look, like if somebody, again, I'm surprised this got upvoted. This is what people want to hear me talk about. Like, let's say if you donate like $2 or something, the way it is now, I get to keep more of that $2 than if it was on Patreon. And also, it supports like one-time payments. So, fine, you donated once, and you don't want this to be a monthly thing. I totally get that. I'll have to figure it out. Like, if I was a smart businessman, I should be prioritizing that instead of prioritizing videos. But it's like that. To be honest, even something like that takes a lower priority for me in my mind than the videos. So it's like, I'd rather make sure everybody has a nice Halloween experience than make sure this is set up like within the next couple weeks. But I'll try and look into it. It's not that I have any love for PayPal. It's just the sort of the path of least resistance for me. That's why I put up the cryptocurrency stuff. Although, ironically, I put that up before cryptocurrency went nuts. When was that? 2017 or something like that. So that was always meant to be like kind of just an easy option that some people probably do, and now it's like, I don't know. I mean, it's different, not as accessible necessarily. I'll look into it, but yeah, it's lower part. I'll try and think of something else. But yeah, so even if I do set up the Patreon, I may just keep quiet about it. I don't know, or just have a secret, or basically only tell people who would specifically email me about it or ask this. But okay, I should move on. We don't. I have it in my head, most people, if they're tuning in, that's not what they want to hear me talk about. So I wouldn't want to hear me talk about that. So you've made it really clear that you don't like turn-based combat. What would a turn-based game have to do in order to get you to play it anyway? I'm going to go into more detail on this in a future game dungeon. Probably not one this year, but there's for one game that people I know want to see a game dungeon on, this ties in so perfectly, and it'll just explain it better than I ever could up here, because you'll be able to just see it, and you'll just completely get it. But that said, there's actually two things. One is just have it like that. I've played a game with turn-based combat where the turn-based combat did not bother me one bit. The game Sky Hill. It's sort of a survival kind of platformer roguelike-ish thing where you're trying to get to the bottom of this tower. And you attack, and then the monster attacks. And if you just keep clicking, it's just like boom, 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 boom. Okay, fight's over. Fine. I'm fine with those kinds of turns. The turns that are literally 0.1 seconds if you want them to be. Because then it feels more like a normal fight and it's not holding me up. And the other, I'm going to have to check out this game. I've heard of it. I completely forgot the title, but somebody emailed me about this. It's some sort of survival sim thing where it's turn-based combat, but however, this is a survival game where you really don't want to get into, you want to avoid combat. So that might actually get me more in the mood if it's kind of like a tense survival thing. Like I guess DayZ's a little bit like that, where you kind of don't want to get into fights if you can avoid it. So if that's part of the punishment of getting into a fight, that now you're in turn-based combat and the whole point is to try to avoid stuff like that, then yeah, that might actually work with me, because then it's working with me for not for wanting to avoid the turn-based combat. So I could actually maybe see myself getting into that. And hey, I think it came out recently on the game list video. Was it that Stygian game? I have to at least try that out at some point. That one, because man, that post-apocalyptic Lovecraftian RPG that looks, man, it looks like something I want to play, and I'm just gonna have to tough it out because I'm too interested in the theme. So, okay, who is the smartest person you have ever met? I'm not sure, but I mean, I don't think I've met anyone really famous that I'm sure, because it's tricky to know. I mean, some people you can tell they're smarter than others, but once you get to intelligent, it can be tricky to know who's like really smart without further clarifiers, or maybe they're really smart, brilliant in one area. I mean, some people you can tell, but others it's tricky, When I was in high school, I'm pretty sure there was some people who I think were like pretty smarter than me. Here, actually, I think I looked one up here. Yeah, because occasionally you can look up and see like what happened to people you knew. Yeah, he lost a lot of hair. Let's see. Okay, yeah, this guy in high school, he ended up getting a PhD from MIT. Looking at him now. Yeah, well, here, I can just say who he is. Scott Geyer. He was, looks like he's working as a professor now. I'm not sure what he got it in. Let's see. Yeah, okay, I'm looking at his resume. Yeah, okay, he works in the chemistry department. So he got a PhD in chemistry from MIT. Yeah. Description of research. New materials provide the nanocrystal synthesis provides a direct route to rapidly develop functional materials with precise control of elemental composition, morphology, and crystallinity. Our goal is to use this synthetic flexibility to create high-performance electrocatalytic and optical devices and design. Okay, so you get the idea. He was a real pleasant guy, quite friendly. Let's see. And actually, I didn't really know her. I think she was in a different grade. I can't remember if she was like the grade above me or below me. I think she was literally getting out of school early because she would go and do assistance work at Virginia Tech, or maybe somewhere else. I mean, some sort of university, and I think it was like cancer research, and I think the work got into Time magazine at one point. I'm blurry on that. Her name was Nisha somebody. I didn't really know her, but I mean, I definitely like met her because at the school. So yeah. I mean, if you're getting pulled out of high school because you're too smart, that's probably a sign that you're ahead of the curve. Also in high school, like in my senior year, like our school had different levels for some of the classes. I mean, some it was just everybody in the same thing. Others that they would kind of sort it by academic level, and like once you got to maybe earlier, but like junior, senior year, they had well, maybe earlier, they had advanced placement options, which was the highest level. And if you did those and took the exam and everything, those counted as college credits for several universities that could transfer over. And I had a few of those, and those were harder than anything I had in college except 400 level classes. You know, your sort of senior year and undergraduate college. So those are about as difficult as. Those were more difficult than most of what I had in college. And in those classes, I think I started off senior year. I had a few of those in like English and history. I was all right in those. For physics, I started off okay, but then started faltering towards the end. And for calculus, I tried one of those, and I think after a week or two, it always just felt like I was one step behind. And so I went down to the level below that, which it was really 2 levels below that, but because the one below it didn't exist for calculus. And then it was like exactly my speed. It was just I had no problem kind of keeping up with it. So pretty much everyone in that calculus class, they were smarter than me than I was at calculus. So let's see. Oh yeah. Oh, somebody's saying, let's be real. He's our real Freeman. I think I might have said this before. My physics teacher's last name was Freeman. I don't think his first name wasn't Gordon though. I think it was Mark, if I remember. And he didn't look like him. He was sort of, he was a little chubby, clean shaven, had sort of shortcut reddish hair, if I remember. He was pretty friendly, kind of. I've noticed that though. About the people I'm pretty sure were smarter than me, probably maybe the smartest people I've encountered that I know of, because again, it can be difficult to tell. It could just be the socioeconomic circumstances, but I noticed they all seem to be calmer than I was. So maybe, I'm sure that that's obviously not true of everyone's smart, but maybe that's a generalization. Like maybe when you're like even smarter, you can kind of breeze through life a little more. I don't know. It's or that calmness is part of what lets you develop your brain more. So I feel like the only thing I may have been able to outdo these people on was just maybe like a sense of imagination. I feel like I could have held my own against any of them, like just come up with exotic ideas or interesting solutions or stuff like that. I think that's the only thing I was maybe been able to outdo them on. Oh yeah, well, speaking of different areas, again, I'm sure he's a bright guy. I don't know how bright, but he's for sure, I think he's a musical genius. I got to talk to Alexander Brandon in the interview that Tom White set up. So, I mean, I didn't meet him in person, but, on Skype, got to talk to, I mean, geez, I would never come up with music that good. So, yeah, somebody's saying that guy is a genius. Okay, yeah. I mean, again, I don't know enough about him to know if he's a genius in so many areas, but for music, yeah, as far as I'm concerned, he is. So, yeah, I'm not a, that's why it's a bit of a masquerade in Freeman's mind, how I kind of have to keep periodically kind of refreshing Freeman's physics cred, to kind of show that he can kind of walk the walk on this. Because, if you have that volatile a personality, but you're also brilliant in your field, you can get away with a lot, But yeah, so yeah, probably some of the people I encountered in high school. Yeah, they. I mean, again, I haven't met many famous people, so it's or that I can remember. But yeah, I guess that's my best guess on that. So Okay, lost my place. Oh yeah, what emotion or emotions did you feel when you finally published the last Freeman's Mind episode? Last Freeman's Mind 1 episode. Yeah, that was kind of a mess because after the fundraiser, I promised to finish it that year because I'm just like, because I felt like I owed it to people at that point because I had so much support from everybody. And of course, my ambition got the better of me again because it wasn't just Freeman's Mind, because I knew after that I kind of wanted to try to keep the YouTube channel going. I thought Freeman's Mind was going to end. Well, it did end for a little while. And so I felt like there was I tried to sneak in some game dungeons in there because I felt like, well, more people are watching this now. Maybe I can kind of transition a few people on the game dungeon before Freeman's Mind ends. So that's why I was a maniac and got the Christmas episode done in between all that. It was a mix because, of course, I felt like utter relief over it and just, I guess, the sort of illusion that life would get easier. But it wasn't quite as satisfying as you might think, because when you're working just around the clock, just day after day after day, it does things to your brain that aren't so good. It's like you almost forget how to relax, or at least that's what happened to me. So it's like once you're done, it's like your body or your mind almost can't believe it. And it takes, you're kind of a little bit in shock almost. So it's not as satisfying as you might think. I'm pretty sure I did have that Trackmania, the Mania Planet menu music in my head. Like I mentioned, the dun 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 dun, like just kind of a piece to it. I enjoyed the piece of it. So yeah, it was sort of a mix, just but between being utterly relieved and kind of shell shocked, and you know. Also, that ended up being even higher stakes for me than I planned, because there was a mistake I made towards the end. And up until that point, when there was a mistake in like the audio, I pretty much had to re-encode the entire video because I didn't have the right software for processing the audio and the video separately. And then it's what's called muxing them together. I knew how to do that with AVIs, but not with, H.264 files, MKVs or MP4s. And I was running out of time to deliver that, on time to kind of meet my promise. And I noticed that I just totally screwed up the volume on one of the lines. And Freeman's Mind, it was like during the G-Man end sequence where you're talking to him. And I was thinking, oh my God, this is the last episode. Everybody's gonna be seeing this. I gotta get this right. So I just took a complete blind faith jump. I found this other software which gave all these warnings. It's in beta, it can cause problems. It ended up being completely fine. MKV Tool Nix GUI. And I just fixed the audio, because I could do that in seconds, just increase that volume. I re-encoded it, and then I muxed that together with the encoded video. I just skimmed it quick to just make sure, okay, this seems fine, this seems fine, this seems fine. And I just put it up there, published it. I previewed the video before that, but I had no idea if that was just gonna corrupt during the stream or anything. So it ended up being way more high stakes or suspenseful for me than I wanted to. And actually to this day, I've never even watched the full thing since then. I've come back to kind of look at the comments, but so that, and actually I use that software for pretty much every video since, once I kind of confirmed that, yeah, this sucker's stable and it works each time, because if I make an audio mistake, I can fix it very quickly, and then I only have to worry on just the YouTube processing everything again, so that kind of delay. Now, if I make a video mistake, I think I still have to re-encode the entire video, which sucks. So that's delayed some videos before, but And then I have to decide how big a mistake is it. Should I just leave it? You know, actually, sometimes if you notice minor mistakes, especially in Game Dungeon, sometimes I go back and patch those anyway, and then the archive copy doesn't have that mistake. So if YouTube ever implodes and I have to re-upload them somewhere, you'll see them, they'll be missing a few minor mistakes. They'll be slightly more polished, but what's up there is up there, so. But yeah, mixed emotions. And I forgot to see what question we're on. I'll tell you what, I'll go another 25 minutes and then I'll start picking and choosing here. Okay, let's see. Okay, I've heard you mention that you've played Dungeons and Dragons. What's your favorite class and what edition did you play? I don't know if I played enough to have like a favorite class. And saying did I enjoy it a lot or play it once or twice? I played it more than a couple times. It was just sort of like a social event to kind of meet new people. As for liking it, I sort of enjoy the storytelling aspect of it, but I tend to not enjoy the combat element of it. I mean, or I don't mind the combat, but I just kind of want everything to auto-resolve. It's like, all right, did I die? Did I get wounded? What, like, you know, okay, should I? And because it just would crawl for me, and it would almost, I would just get bored and almost be like I'm in school while I'm waiting for the combat to resolve and everything. And I didn't really enjoy dealing with all the character stats and everything. When I could, in fact, I would sometimes, because sometimes the Dungeons and Dragons group, there's somebody who enjoys kind of optimizing characters and, you know, determining the best equipment. Whenever I could, I would just hand it to them, say, all right, here, you handle it. What should I get? I don't know if I had really particular, as for editions, I think, geez, what was the edition in like, I played it at different points. So I think I played it at, geez, you know, I would recognize it from the book cover. Let's see. What was the edition in like 98 or 99? That would have been one of them. In fact, I would love to make an animated video showing my first D&D game. I guarantee you it's not like most people's games, and it would be extremely watchable. It wouldn't be too long. Okay, somebody's saying that was second, and then I played later and I felt like it was a lot different. It might have been fourth. I'm gonna recognize it from like the book cover, I think. Yeah, okay, I played it at fourth too, I think. And I think the last time I played, which is years back, I was playing as a sorcerer because they could damage a whole lot of people. I sort of enjoyed playing reckless characters. He was a pyromaniac in that, so because it's hard for me to take it completely seriously, so it's like, why not take more risks? So, and then that can kind of lead to more interesting situations. But yeah, I would love to have an animated. It wouldn't be very long, but yeah, the first D&D game I played, I guarantee this might even surprise some D&D players because it was not a typical game. I don't want to spoil what happened because I hope to eventually make a video out of it. Let's see. How do you feel about games set in Arctic environments? Depends. I don't know. I kind of like, if there's vegetation, sure, I love it. If it's just like pure Arctic, as in Antarctica, not my favorite. Although, you know, I say this with The Thing being one of my all-time favorite movies, but that is so much going for it. It's I don't know, you just kind of get the feeling there's just tons of nothing out there. But if there's like vegetation, then all sorts of things can be kind of hidden in it, you know. So, like for some reason, I'm thinking of the movie. It's not a game, but I'm thinking of the movie. Like, was it the Gray? That movie with Liam Neeson. The one where the wolves. I love the atmosphere of that. So yeah, the gray. So yeah, if there was a game with a setting like that, I'd love it. So, but yeah, if it's so Arctic, if it's too Arctic for trees, then it's not really my favorite. But you know, what voice acting tips can you give? Well, I guess one is don't hold back. Like if your character's frightened or afraid, just let it loose. I mean, that may cause problems for your neighbors or anyone else around, but if you don't do that, then it's gonna, I mean, geez, I noticed that just doing the first civil protection when I thought I was just gonna be able to do it kind of loud, but then I realized, no, I gotta go louder when it's like, Dave, stop it. Like, you know, it's like, because otherwise I'm just not gonna sell it. Like, because you gotta put the energy into it. So yeah, energy is always helpful, I think, for your role. I mean, not all roles need the same kind of energy. In fact, some are more subdued, but you don't want to hold back if the role calls for more energy. I mean, for hardware and microphone stuff, you're probably better looking at just general YouTube channels for that. I'm still not 100% on that myself. I can tell you what I use. I think it's on the frequently asked questions on the website. If it's not, it should be what microphones I'm using. But another thing, just try to dampen the sound as much as you can. Yeah, like you can see now I have like these blankets draped over things. I found that, yeah, don't worry too much about getting state-of-the-art studio grade sound absorption pads. You know what I found does a fantastic job, at least for my voice and kind of muffling things, is just thick blankets. And you can get those real cheap, you know? So, and just figure out a way to kind of mount them somewhere. That'll cut down on echo a lot and help things. Yeah, thick blankets help a lot with reverb that you don't want. Yeah, I guess try not to volume clip. I mean, you can tell you're doing that when you record it and it just completely goes to like 100% in the waveform, or it's like capped off at a certain point. Then you may need a different mic, or just make sure your recording levels are lower. I mean, I guess those are the basic things, but yeah, listen to yourself. Do you sound convincing, or do you sound like somebody who's acting, you know? And I guess just for acting in general, what I try to do is just sort of put myself in a temporary state of mind as though that's real and I'm that person, and just kind of act like that's what I would say if I was that person in that situation. So, yeah, you know, it helps to kind of pretend that you're the character. And then those are the obvious ones I could think of. So I can't think of stuff that wasn't really obvious. Oh yeah, okay. I'll tell you something that's not really obvious that I've learned. Yeah, actually, you may have noticed. I shouldn't say this because now people are gonna notice, but well, they probably did anyway. In the Trackmania episode, some of the voice qualities, it seemed to really shift sometimes. I was experimenting with a new mic stand, and I was using a pop filter, and I found the pop filter kind of screwed with my frequencies. It just didn't sound as good. So yeah, okay, so 2 tips. What I used to do on old videos was just kind of hold the mic at an angle so I wasn't hitting directly into it and just sort of right to the side of my mouth. However, what I'm doing lately is I'm talking directly into it, and I found a filter setting that because sometimes you get a mic puff, you know, you're saying like Peter Piper picked the pickle peppers, you get this puff that you don't want. I found I've been able to, maybe I can kind of repost the results I have sometime. I've been able to filter that out like a champ. I mean, because some stuff is very difficult to filter out, but I have this one filter, when that happens, I just apply it, bam, it's like it never happened, so it's great. So yeah, you can filter mic puff out quite, or at least I've been able to, quite convincingly. So I think it's called mic pop, but I think of it more as like a puff sound. But okay, so yeah, keep moving on. Okay, asking about Metal Gear Online and some of the Metal Gear Solid games, 3 and 4, can be played via PC emulation. It's currently being worked on. I did not know that. I did know that PlayStation 2 emulation, you can play a lot of PlayStation 2 games online through emulation. Actually, you might even be able to play them natively if it connects to the computer and then it sets it up. I think that came up in one of the Dead Game News episodes. The Nos, maybe the first, was it the first one or the second one? The Nosgoth episode. I think I talked up a little bit about that. Or at least I meant to, if I didn't. Yeah, it's, I feel like over a long enough, I mean, this is thinking way down the line, but I feel like over a long enough time span, emulation is almost the answer to everything because, eventually hardware fails and it dies or it goes bad, or the pool of available hardware shrinks more and more and more. Right now, video games are still relatively young, so yeah, if you want to grab something like an NES to play the game, you go ahead. But man, imagine it's going to be more expensive and harder to find, let's say 30 years from now, or somewhere like that now. Like you're not exactly tripping over Neo Geos, I think, or was it a Jaguar? So even if it's not necessarily 100% authentic, it's really in every gamer's interest to eventually have some sort of emulation option, because that's the closest you're gonna get. And in my opinion, sometimes it's even better in a lot of ways, because for 3D games, you can pump higher resolution into it, or you can have save states, or you can, if you like it, you can have like filters for 2D games or stuff like that, or just experiment with them more. So, I mean, it just kind of brings up, I really kind of wish after a certain length of time that games could just enter this sort of, I mean, I know this is kind of magical thinking here, but just kind of enter this state where you get access to the code, kind of do whatever you want with them. It can make them so much. Some games, it just makes things nicer and is a way to preserve it. Other games, it breathes completely new life into the game. I mean, look, VR is rejuvenating my interest into a lot of old games that I've played. I mean, because I like new games and I like old games. However, with old games, I kind of want to kind of move on to stuff I haven't played before and only replay stuff that's just really faded in my memory. However, with VR, oh man, there are so many games that I know and I still remember that I want to replay those in just, the true vision, because that's an option that's emerging that wasn't there before. Or actually, for the one thing I've been impressed with on the PlayStation, the original, how you had that kind of wobble to everything because I think they took shortcuts with like the texture alignment. There's plugins to get rid of that and have it render more accurate, or render more accurately, not more authentically, but more accurately. So it's a smooth, steady kind of 3D image like most 3D games are. I was thinking, man, that's awesome. It's like, you combine that with higher resolution and anti-aliasing, it's like it's better than the original ever was, and depending on what you're looking at, So, yeah, if you want to see an example of that, look up PSX perspective correction. There's a video sample of that looks pretty neat. So, yeah, if you really want to preserve games, like the safest option, I think it eventually comes back to emulation. And that said, some games can keep going a long time without that, but because I mean, even on PC games, all these old games you're playing on DOS, not too many people are firing up the old floppies of them. We're glad to have moved on from that. So, or I think most people. Like, I was thinking, I think even lazy game reviews, I was thinking of an example of someone who really likes the old authentic hardware. He'd be happy to not have to rely on the floppy to play the game on legacy computers. You know, I think he'd be. I don't know if he'd necessarily miss that versus just copying it over from a burned CD or something like that. You know, on a real old machine, or through the network or something like that. So, yeah, but what's going on in the industry and what's ideal are often two very different things. So, I'm just going to expend my energy on not having them destroyed, and that's a big enough challenge in itself. Have you visited some other European countries besides Poland and Belarus/Russia? Do you plan to? Well, actually, I haven't been to Belarus or Russia, so that'll be interesting. Yeah, eventually I'd like to see some more. A few destinations I could think of. One, even before I came to Europe, I saw this video. It was an alpine slide, and it was like this sort of cart that was on this single rail that you could control the speed of, and they were just going down this giant mountain. It just kept going. I think it was in Austria, maybe. I'm not sure, but that just looked amazing. That just looked like so much fun. Somebody's saying Switzerland. I think it was Austria, but I'm not certain. But yeah, well, I mean, they're both border the Alps, though. So I think it'd be neat to visit the Alps. Actually, I haven't seen a lot of it. Actually, I remember in the series Band of Brothers, in the final episode, they had a lot of shooting in the Alps, and it's just incredible how it looks. I mean, yeah, there might have been some CGI to make it more kind of World War II era Alps, but still, they probably didn't have to fake the mountains. So, I mean, it just looked, that would be really neat to see. Also, I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing a lot of Germany, actually. One destination I'm thinking of is, I forget the name of it. I'm sure that someone in the chat will know. This sort of kind of fantasy level castle. It was featured in Gabriel Knight too, Sins of the Fathers, where I wouldn't mind visiting the real thing. I mean, it just looks gorgeous from the outside. Actually, my wife's has actually been there. She says it's extremely crowded, so maybe we could go there when it's not so busy. But yeah, I forgot the name of it. It was a big deal in Gabriel Knight too, I remember. But Neuschwanstein? I don't know. Let's see. Somebody's asking some questions. I'll try to get to some stuff at the end. I'm still doing the questions people have voted on, but yeah, I'd be happy to see more of Europe. But again, it's a three-way question of time, expense, and what wife is up to, because she can have anxiety. So I'm not trying to pressure her on much. But you know, that's all the more reason for me to just kind of burrow into VR, because man, I could be visiting all kinds of places daily. You know, I mean, yes, it's not the same as the real thing, but I can also visit places that don't exist in reality too. So, let's see. Have you heard about molten salt reactors before? And they're a possible alternative to current nuclear power plants, and would use thorium as a fuel source reactor rather than plutonium, and they'd have a much smaller chance of meltdown. Yeah, I keep hearing about thorium reactors every couple of years and how they're better and we should be using them, and then we don't build them. So I'm not sure why that is. I mean, maybe it's a politics thing. I don't know. I think I saw something on that once before, but then I forgot the reason. So, no, I mean, it can make a lot of sense because, as I understand it, wind and solar is becoming extremely competitive to something like nuclear. However, the one thing you don't get from wind and solar, at least out of the bag, is energy storage. So yeah, while the wind's blowing, it's great. While the sun's shining, it's great. And then you got to rely on battery storage, which I'm not sure if we've made breakthroughs on that to the point where we could really kind of support the grid that way. So it would be good to have something like that where, you can kind of kick on while we're still kind of developing kind of energy storage techniques. In some places, what they've done is they'll like pump the water up into a reservoir and then use that as sort of like a natural battery. And then when the load's when the load's high and they're not producing as much, like at night, they can just kind of empty the water back down again through a turbine. But that's not going to work in every location. And I'm sure that's a lossy storage, probably more so than batteries, but at the same time, the level of battery storage you would need might not work out. But yeah, that's the sort of thing we can make a breakthrough on too. I don't know. But it's good to have something in place for when, wind and solar, basically the middle of the night and the wind's not blowing, and there's a high load for some reason. Or you're just having a lot of days without much sun or without much wind, that sort of thing. So, yeah, that's and this conversation is reminding me of the game Total Annihilation, where you basically have to power your war machine and bases and everything through either wind or solar on these different planets. And I remember it can be tricky because sometimes the wind's not blowing, or sometimes it's cloudier. So it's tricky. That's certainly a challenging problem to have with power production. But yeah, maybe someone could explain why we don't have thorium reactors. It probably is politics. So. Let's see. I remember you being on Total Biscuits podcast. Have you been invited to any other podcast? What podcast would you like to be in? Yeah, I've been on a couple in the past. I have links to some of them. I may have forgotten some of them, and like on the website under extras, I think there's a few I forgot. I mean, there's somewhere buried in the news archives that I have a link to it. There was one that was just kind of a random interviewing different people thing, and then there was another one a while back, just might have been like 2000, yeah, it might have been 10 years ago. It was this, I think it was called Podcast 17, where they covered like anything Source Engine related. I came on there before. I think there's been a couple others. I've been invited to some before, although I should probably put this in the frequently asked questions. I'm sort of developing a rule now, it's not because I think I'm better than anyone or anything like that. It's just a matter of like time triage. I'm avoiding going on podcasts unless they've had viewership in the hundreds. So in other words, because I got a few invitations for podcasts where they only had like 5 views or 13 views on it. I'm thinking, oh geez, it's like these guys are well-meaning and they seem like they're running a competent podcast, but it's like my time's kind of limited. If I'm going on a podcast, like, hey, maybe I'm talking more about like the dead games problem or something like that. I kind of want to get more people listening to it. I kind of feel like, I kind of feel like if you were starting a podcast today, if you were hustling on it, you could get 100 views, or 200 views if you were like going around. Because I mean, that's kind of what I was doing in the old days of civil protection. And that was, I think that was even before I really pushed it on YouTube. I was trying to kind of promote it. No, I did put it on YouTube, but that wasn't the main way I was promoting it, because back then it was like 240 resolution or something, vertical resolution. So I'm kind of holding like the 100 views or more on a past podcast is sort of my prerequisite. Again, it's not that I think I'm too good for it. It's more that I'm so busy that I kind of have to decide what I'm spending time on. I'm fine with appearing on stuff. So, yeah. As for podcasts I like to be on, I don't listen to enough or know enough reliably to know which ones would be a good fit, unfortunately. I'm generally fine with appearing on ones, though. I mean, yeah, the Total Biscuit one, he invited me on that, so sure. But yeah, try to get more than 100 views on past podcasts to have me on, I guess. Okay, let's see. What's your take on reporting on a game's ship numbers versus actual units sold? And since my friend is bugging me, he's wanted me to ask if you've worked in East Tennessee as his grandfather had seen him watching some of your videos and thought he recognized you from somewhere. Yeah, I think I did in Oak Ridge back in the early 2000s. Let's see. So I'm just double checking that's in the East. So yeah, he might have seen me on my bicycle going to work, doing the tech support job. It was in Oak Ridge if he saw me. So, and let's see. Report on games ship numbers versus actual units sold. I think I have no opinion on that at all. I hadn't really heard about that. I mean, is that like a physical versus digital kind of thing? Or because, yeah, that's obviously outdated metric for a lot of games, so. Oh, and somebody's cutting me off. Yeah, somebody's mentioning I hit my time mark. Okay, so I'll get choosier on the questions after this. Yeah, I don't know what that's really in relation to, so with game sales. Okay, whoops, and I accidentally closed the window. Okay, so hold on. I got to bring back up what I was looking at. Yeah, I bicycled to work pretty much every day in Tennessee. So he could have recognized me there. Yeah, that's also where the sirens went off citywide and I didn't know what was happening. Okay, here we go. I never dressed up as Gordon Freeman for Halloween, I'm afraid. Let's see. But I'm glad I did get that picture of me looking like him, though. Have you ever considered using 3D animation software like Blender rather than a game engine to make your movie? And he's mentioning resources like Blend Swap, Make Human, Textures.com. You could probably entirely avoid making your own assets. Well, the thing is, I think there's going to be more shortcuts doing it through Unreal. Like once the chain is fully established. That's what's happening. That's what's been happening lately. Because, I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Blender's come a long way, but look at this. I'm not going to be making the maps for the movie. I mean, I'm going to be trying to help design them, but you can find a lot of mappers for Unreal. I don't know if you're going to be able to find mappers as much for Blender, but maybe. Maybe the difference isn't that much now. And there's other things like, I want, like once it's on Unreal, I kind of want to replicate some of the functionality I had in Source SDK. Where like, let's say I have a character model and we have it rigged with some animations. Well, I want to have the AI, I want to have like some scripts or a little bit of AI come in, or if I just give a walk path, say like, okay, I want the character to walk like up this hill, around the corner, down this alleyway. Well, that wasn't that hard in Source SDK because it had these kind of automated scripts kind of built into it, or the AI, where with traditional rendering stuff, you kind of have to, or yeah, if it's up a hill, the legs would bend to a degree. And there's probably more of that stuff now. At least at the time when I was looking at the movie, I don't think there was where, I mean, that's one of the things I hated about Source Filmmaker is if I want to have somebody walk down there, it's like I have to play the walk animation, then sort of sync it up. And yeah, inverse kinematics. Well, see, that's part of it, but they also have to know, like, okay, when they turn, they're gonna play this sort of turn animation. If it's faster, we have some animations in there that it knows to blend or something like that, or you tell it to run. And the thing I want about Unreal or just machinima in general is shortcuts. I want as many shortcuts as I can. So, and the other thing is, maybe this isn't a problem for Blender, but I kind of don't want things too realistic, because the animation quality, I hope it's good, but it's not going to be perfect. I know that. So it's I kind of want the ability to kind of scale down just how good the lighting is, or the texture fidelity, or everything. And I'm not trying to get to close to like ray tracing or, you know, photorealistic, because then that's going to make the imperfections in the animation stick out like a sore thumb. Whereas if everything's kind of like scaled down a little bit, it's probably not going to detract at all. So we still have to do some more testing to see just how clear the fidelity is going to be. But that's the reason. I mean, if you want to make the case, here's what I'm after. What is the least amount of work once you know the software? That's what I'm after. Because, and I will say there's going to be some things in the movie that I'm going to need physics. Again, probably a lot of the stuff has been added to stuff like Blender, where, ragdoll physics or just like things kind of collapsing and destroying. That stuff probably isn't there now. But yeah, so that's what I want. What's the least amount of work once you know the software? And again, another possible advantage to Unreal, again, it's all kind of blurring these days, but is I hope to motion capture as much as I can. But say there's some things that motion capture is not really going to cut it. We have to come in there manually. Well, let's say somebody's really proficient in Maya or 3D Studio Max, or another person's in Blender. Well, Unreal can be the place where they can work in their software that they're good at, and then that all converges. Whereas you might be able to port that like a body animation from one rendering software to the other. Again, I got to catch up on this stuff, but I guess at the time I was pushing for it, it seemed to have a lot of clear advantages. So, yeah, if you think that's not the case, somebody's saying headbutts camera, okay. Then yeah, let me know. But I mean, it's still, we're getting close, but it's still not quite too late to back out of one piece of software over another. Yeah, but it's, because I'm not gonna Duke Nukem forever this. If we're locked in, once we're locked in completely, we're not backing out unless we have to, So that's why I knew from the beginning this was gonna take more work up front, and that's been absolutely true. But it's gonna pay off once the engine's finally all set up and we're rolling. So, let's see. Yeah, somebody asked, what's the worst advice I've received? I'm not sure. I think I probably disregarded it and then just, my brain probably filed that under, disregard, and then eventually forgot about it. I'd have to think about some. Because I kind of want to say the machinima contract, but that led to a series of events that made it work out. And it's like, the thing is, yes, I shouldn't have taken the machinima contract, but maybe, because there were no other options. Like, it's like, would you rather have your very bad option or just not do this at all? So those are my choices back when I signed with machinima. It's because you had no protections as a YouTuber, back then. So it's a mess. I don't know. I'd have to think about it. But what kind of maps or environments would you want to see in a racing game? Honestly, anything scenic. I mean, I like those games where they take you a little globe trotting, so you're in all these different environments. One's kind of jungle, one's like this, kind of megapolis kind of thing. I guess the kind of I would like to see more of in games in general. I like kind of forested mountain areas. So, that works great with racing games because you have winding roads and, up and down hills. So I feel like the game industry is a little light on that. I would, if I had to guess, it's because forest can be a tall order for graphics. I mean, if you're taking a bunch of shortcuts and having like a bunch of sprites for your trees, sure, it's nothing. But a lot of games don't want to do that. So it can take a lot of rendering power to deliver on a forest. So, I mean, but I'd like to see more of that. Okay. Oh yeah, this is going to be mentioned a little bit in the games as a service follow-up whenever that's not happening this month, I'll tell you that. But in the recent Dead Game News video, you mentioned U.S. copyright lawyers coming out of the woodwork to take down or denounce your views on the fraud video. Who are these people and where did they post? Okay, well, I may be exaggerating a bit. The one I was really thinking of was Hogue Law, because I felt like he kind of came down on me, and I felt like he misrepresented some arguments I put up. Like, I feel like he just got my stance just wrong. And I actually went and replied with him in a sort of a follow-up discussion / debate, which I probably could have done better on, but at least I sort of cleared up what I was talking about. He was the one that bugged me. I guess I need to rewatch the video. I'm not trying to just like start a feud with him. I mean, I went and talked to him directly on the video. But the other one, this one, I need to go back and rewatch the video. Yeah, first I should say I appreciate them looking at this. But I knew from the beginning I needed a consumer law attorney. But all that was really available is copyright lawyers. And so I went with what I had. I feel like the Lawful Masses, Leonard French one, it kind of felt like he was taking a narrow look at it and just saying, no, this just isn't the case. Whereas I feel like the reality was this was a gray area. Now you can make the argument that, no, they're likely to say this isn't the case because of X, Y, and Z. Again, I have to relook at it. Maybe my perception of that was wrong. And that was the first one I went on to. So I was more green on this as far as like what to ask and what to be looking for. But it's sort of, I feel like he wasn't kind of looking at it as objectively as he could. I mean, even if it's coming down, because some others that I thought did a better job were YouTuber Law and especially Nick Rakita, where like, basically you can be the bearer of bad news and explain why, whereas just saying something, no, this is wrong, and then not really accepting the counter arguments, not really defending the counter arguments to that, then it's not really a satisfying explanation, if you see what I mean. And I was getting that more from Leonard French. Like when I was able to talk to him, one part that just bugged me, that I'm not sure this was ever satisfactorily answered, was even they said that this would be fraud if, like, let's say you have a new game and then it just shuts down after like 2 weeks. You know, like you bought like a games as a service, you bought the client, but then the server shuts down after 2 weeks. And even though in the contract it says like it can be shut down at any time for any reason, they were saying that would be fraud, like if you didn't return the money or something. However, let's say it's been a year. Oh, well now it's not fraud because you got to keep your client. You got to keep the game client and you have a perpetual license to that. Well, it's like, well, wait a minute. Why is it fraud? Why are we measuring whether you have a working game after the first few weeks, and that's not what's being measured after a year? Like, what's the legal defense of that? And I felt like he never answered that. So, because it's the exact same. Because if we apply the exact same logic, it doesn't work. It's completely contradictory. And I think the answer, what I think the answer is from talking to everybody is, that's just sort of how it is right now, and this does not hold up logically, hence why this is a gray area in law. And, well, so that was the main thing. But man, that French ruling, again, even if it's overturned, the reasoning, it's like almost identical to what I was making in the games, making into the games as a services fraud video. So, as far as I'm concerned, that completely vindicates me, because whatever the law ends up deciding on, that shows that this was in court for 4 years, and the conclusion they came to was exactly the same stuff I was basing my video on the games as a services fraud video. So, there's going to be disagreements between the courts, but yeah, there was definitely merit to that. I wasn't just making this up and wishing this to be the case. Well, the courts can't decide if this is the case, and some of them have decided, no, that is the case. That's why I'm pushing ahead in France. So, yeah, no, I think even though he had the least legal analysis, I think the Nick Rakita video, if I'm pronouncing his name right, had sort of the best sort of take on it. Like, what's the landscape of the law look like? Because, yeah, I mean, it's kind of irrelevant whether you, again, it could be what I'm arguing for is never going to work, but you got to explain why and why these counter arguments aren't going to work. And I felt like Hogue Law and, to a lesser extent, Learned French didn't do that as much. So, okay, should keep moving on. Let's see. Okay, I have not visited the Tatra Mountains in the southeast of Poland. Do I like hiking? Yeah, generally, if it's scenic. Although I don't miss backpacking or camping at all. I like being able to come home afterwards. So, but yeah, I do like hiking. If you were in the Star Trek universe, would you join Starfleet Academy? And he's asking what area. No. I think I'd be I think I'd rather just try to live on one of these, like, Earth or one of these guarded worlds and just watch the broadcast of the new things that are being destroyed. I mean, like, on an average episode of Star Trek, yeah, just average over time, how many people die, or is the ship coming close to an encounter where it's almost destroyed or everybody dies? So, like, what percentage of episodes does almost everyone die? So it's pretty significant. So I'd rather leave that to the bold there. And, let's see. He's asking my favorite Star Trek, and he's saying, why is it Next Generation? I'd say it's probably either Next Generation or the original. It's sort of a mix. I feel like the original has a better average. Like if you're just to pick an episode at random, what are your odds you're going to have a good episode? I think the original series wins that. Whereas the absolute best are like the Next Generation. But you could also have a soap opera episode, which aren't the ones I like. So it's like you have bigger highs and lows on Next Generation and better, just a good enjoyable episode on the original series. So I don't worry about which one's my favorite. So. And the music question, which I'm going to have to think about some other time. The United States is famous for Florida Man and his wild antics. I don't actually know Florida Man, but I know a lot of stuff has come out of Florida. Does Poland have an equivalent? And if so, what is the most Poland Man thing you've seen since arriving in your new country? Maybe. I don't know all of them. Within either the first day or the second day I was here, there was some guy popping a wheelie on a motorcycle, just freaking flying downtown. That was like one of the first things I saw. But Magda showed me a video where this guy dressed up as Spider-Man went and was running around town, and he would grab onto the back of trams as they were like going by. So that struck me as something. So we had a Polish Spider-Man at large here. Let's see. Okay, somebody's asking about Halloween. If all goes well, you should be satisfied for what you're getting from me for Halloween. So, or maybe not satisfied, but because for some people, I'm pretty sure nothing less than like 30 videos would be satisfactory. But yeah, I think you'll be pleased with what I have in mind. So. Okay, this question has been asked before about other content creators I enjoy and haven't had the occasion to shout out in the past. I forgot. Should probably make a list of these people sometime. Somebody's been recommending IGDB for a database of games. Yeah, I can maybe try that for the games, for the games list, especially newer ones. I've actually been slowly sort of stockpiling abandonware just in case some of these sites ever go down. And I've been using the program Launchbox to sort them. Man, I love that program for just being able to sort my library. I don't really use it to launch anything because I have too much to keep it all installed at once. But and it's kind of similar to what I'm doing with the game list, where I have it all by screenshots. There's a lot of games I have that are not in any of the databases. Like, I want to say it's something like 30%, maybe higher. Like, it's once you get to abandonware, man, there's a reason I'm stockpiling it. Yeah, you know, just. Oh yeah, this question. Oh. Is it even worth putting effort into trying to fix the video game industry if we are going to get cooked alive anyway in the next few decades? Okay, I was going to bring up well, I still am going to bring up something like this, extremely, excuse me, extremely similar to this in the next Game Dungeon follow-up. I was going to talk about this during the new beginning part, but I do not mind repeating this. Because this kind of leads into something I wanted to ask you guys. One is, I guess the first layer of this is, I think the dead game stuff is, you know, the most important issue in the games industry. But that said, games in themselves are not actually that important compared to a lot of other things. So I certainly have an awareness that this just isn't as important as many other things. As for worth doing, I'll get to that in a second. The cook the live part though. Okay, my understanding, which could be flawed, is we are not literally going to cook alive, from global warming in the next few decades. I think even in a worst case scenario, it would only be the equator where it's literally so hot, it becomes lethal if you're out there for an extended length of time because like your body can literally not dissipate the heat, the heat fast enough. You kind of implode from your own heat collection. I think it's only and that would be like a worst. My understanding would be a worst case scenario that that regions around the equator are like that. Now that said, here's the big question I have. Well, I have two big questions. One is, this is going to be bad, like with global warming. However, I'm completely in the dark as to how bad and how fast. So I would like to hear theories and projections, like as many projections as I can get that are like educated guesses on this. So, like, what does that look like? So if you, like, these can either be educated guesses from people who have studied this and have studied sort of societal collapse, and you kind of need people who have like a cross-section of a lot of some different backgrounds, like the environmental, like either meteorology or biology, like ecology with environmental impact, and sociological stuff where they have an idea of how societies tend to respond or collapse or what happens, so they can kind of make some educated guesses. Because there's a whole range between bad versus cooked alive, you know? And maybe that's happening, but in 200 years, or maybe it's 50, or, you know, I'm just so I'm trying to play catch up on that. The other thing is, if you read science fiction and you know stuff that takes their best guess at this, sure, I meant to ask about that in A New Beginning anyway, for people to recommend sort of like kind of future predictive stuff. I like that. I like that stuff in general. So, feel free to email me on that, like the projections or just science fiction kind of related to like what the future might look like, you know? And the other half, the other question I was going to ask is, this stuff is not, again, there's this giant grades. I mean, nobody knows for sure exactly how it's going to go down, but some people's guesses are going to be a lot better than others. I'm wondering, like, I still have the perception of being able to live a full life. So, however, that might take some working at. That might take some, take some doing. So I'm kind of curious, what is the best way to kind of position yourself as far as like where you are in society or what part of the world you're at? Like, where do you want to end up as, I guess, as far as the best odds for survival? Because that's something because I feel like where we are now, we're not going to fix this. The best we can do is slow it down. And so, that could, but again, there's a big range there. So I'm kind of, I guess what I would, my just knee-jerk response would be that being in some sort of community that can kind of have their own food production and is kind of everybody's on the same page with this is probably the best place to be. So however, I'm wondering, is there an option that doesn't involve you spending pretty much your whole life doing farm work? Maybe you're just doing some of your life doing farm work. Like, yeah, do a couple hours every day and then the rest of the time you can kind of work at something else. Where I don't know. I mean, because I'm sure some people are going to kind of bring up like sort of the homesteader prepper route, whereas I kind of feel like you need kind of communities. The doing it all on your own, well, first you have to have like the resources and land and skills and time for all that. But even then, that probably just buys you a lot of time. And at some point you're going to come into a situation where you need help and support of other people. So I kind of feel like where we're heading, not everyone's going to make it. So I'd love to be ahead of the curve on this. I mean, it's, I have no ill will towards anyone. However, I definitely would like to be in the survivor camp. Like that's, so yeah, if you have any ideas on that, like, or just you've thought about this maybe more than I have, by all means, email me, russ.wscott@gmail.com. Or you want to recommend some science fiction on this, or I'd love to hear like more thoughts on that. So, yeah, and I'm probably going to repeat some of that in the next Game Dungeon follow-up, but I'll have a bunch of other stuff too. And again, the follow-up may get postponed, unfortunately. But put it like this, the follow-up is next in line for non-holiday episodes, I'd say, for Game Dungeon. So for non-time sensitive episodes. So yeah, I mean, as far as games versus end of the world, I don't know where the end of the world is. So I'm still able to sort of operate in the fog here, where I could kind of switch back and forth between real world issues versus just escapism. So that's how I'm doing it. So it might be a certain amount of ignorance is bliss, or what I'm worried about is farther down the line than I think it is, or maybe it's not, in which case, yeah, maybe I should stop. Maybe I should have some big corrections here. But it's certainly, I'm in the dark. I'd love to hear more what you guys think, especially if you know more than I do on it. Okay. Getting close to 2 hours, so. Somebody's asking the games I feel are best to play during the Halloween season, if I want really scary stuff or just sort of spooky stuff. I kind of like it all. However, I think I sort of like the real terrifying stuff as sort of a closer. So I'm happy to play all sorts of games that are just like, ooh, kind of spooky. But I kind of want like the stuff that's just like, okay, it's Halloween time. Let's. I mean, I guess it doesn't have to be absolutely terrifying, but it can be. But like, I like stuff that's sort of in the spirit of Halloween, more like more stuff from the unknown, monsters or stuff like that. Yeah, I like that. So, whereas like say it's a really scary game or movie, but it's just like say a serial killer or something. Well, that's less in the spirit of Halloween because it's not. it doesn't have the sort of fantastic element to it. I like that. So. What games have you played where you hate that you love them? I can't really think of any like that because it's more like both, you know, games that give me a sort of inner conflict, you know, like The Crew, you know, oh, I get to drive across the United States and see all these different regions and towns and everything. But man, it has frame rate issues. But man, it's the games as a service, they get shut down. But man, they keep screwing with the lighting and the weather's kind of a mess. It's like, man, it's like I want to like it so much, but it drags me down. So it's, yeah, anything that gets the love-hate rating, I guess. Okay, I'm kind of skipping some more. Yeah, these will have to get more votes next time. Yeah, see, one of these is about cookies. I don't. You know what I'll say about desserts and everything. It's kind of like the Warhammer universe, where like ignorance is a virtue. It's like the less you think about it, the better. Yeah. Ignorance is a virtue when it comes to cookies. You know, this is forbidden. This is dangerous knowledge, is what it is. So. Let's see. Okay, somebody's asking what they can do to help on the movie, even though they don't have quite the skill set for it, just for voice acting. I'll have to think about it. Maybe more organizational stuff, but, well, Daniel's doing a pretty good job with the organizing. He probably, it might be a too many cooks in the kitchen thing. So maybe, it's, unfortunately, maybe not that much directly at the moment. I mean, voice actors will be later, but the thing is, sometimes helping with other things can kind of free up time for me to work more on the movie. So that's what I might be pursuing with that game dungeon-ish experiment later, or stuff like that. But there's sometimes some miscellaneous things I can use help with. I really wish I could kind of just share my email account with somebody and just so they could kind of go through some stuff that like they don't actually need me to answer, but that's not really realistic. So. Well, someone's asking about why I was in the PC gaming as opposed to consoles like everyone else in the 80s. I had friends who had consoles. I didn't have them, and I didn't have the money to afford one. My dad had an extra computer from work, so I was able to play some on that. So it's like I didn't have it. I didn't have the money for it. And he's asking if I'd be jealous or felt like I missed out on other games like Mario and Sonic. Oh yeah. I mean, look, on platformers, look, back in the 80s and 90s, look, consoles ran circles around the PC when it came to platformers. I mean, in fact, I feel like the PC never really, I mean, it certainly had interesting stuff going on it. I feel like it never completely shined, like just across the spectrum until we got to like the sort of indie game renaissance, you know. I guess the, you know, kind of late 2000s. I mean, there was good stuff made. I mean, there would be good stuff made in different genres throughout. You know, like I think for sure, like in first-person shooters, the PC led the way on like the best stuff, or you know, real-time strategy games, or graphic adventure games are always a mix because yes, they had great stories, they had great graphics, and just punitive gameplay, but yeah, platformers, consoles were always ahead. Fighting games were always ahead. Racing games, it was kind of a mix, I guess. But that's also one of the reasons I was kind of leaning towards I think it's kind of actually worked out a little better at not being able to resell digital games because, man, it's led to so much good stuff on the PC where it's just across the spectrum. I mean, it's rarer and rarer now that's like there's a console game, a console exclusive. It's like, man, I want to play this, and I wish it was on PC. I think that's rarer than ever now, which is great. But I mean, for my taste, obviously it's kind of different for different people. But I'd love to see exclusives just die. You know, where it's or have it be a situation where you may only release the game on one platform because that's all the developer wants to deal with, but they have no problem with you buying the game and running it on others. Like kind of what Windows games are to Linux. Yeah, we're selling the game on Windows and that's all we're supporting it for, but yeah, if you want to buy a copy of it and get it running on Linux, of course the developer's fine with that. I wish all the consoles were like that and the PC was like that, so people could just hack it together. It's yeah, okay, should keep moving on. Do you think Valve is an evil company? No, I think I think they're an incredibly powerful and influential company that just doesn't want to own up to much. I mean, I like how they push some things forward, like with VR, and they were trying to get, well, yeah, they might have done more for Linux gaming than anything, actually. But I don't think they're an evil company, but I don't think they're stopping evil either. That's the best way to put it. I don't think Valve's doing anything to stop evil. So. Given your animosity towards mazes, what are your thoughts on the Descent series and spiritual successor Overlord? Overload. Yeah, Overlord's a different game. Well, kind of mixed because I love the sort of theme of it. Like, I kind of like that sort of theme where you're kind of going deeper and deeper into this kind of claustrophobic kind of, well, in Descent, it's sort of a techno industrial environments because it kind of has its own feel to it. And those sorts of things like fully embrace mazes to the point where it's not just getting in the way. It's part of the whole experience. It's a core part of the experience where, I mean, I guess you can make the same argument for Doom, but I feel like Doom really delivers on the blast them shooter element of it. So and the demon element that the maze sort of gets in the way of, whereas Descent, it feels like that's part of what it's all about. And Descent, I could be wrong. It's been a long time since I played it. I want to play some of the newer spiritual successor ones. Yeah, there's Overload. There's oh geez, what was the name of the other one? I forgot. It's on my list, I'm sure. But don't they usually give you like a full 3D minimap? So it's like, all right, here you are. Here's where you're trying to get to. So it's more of like a kind of a Metroid-ish thing. Not really, but yes, it's long, complicated, and maze-like, but they're giving you a map. So, you can figure it out yourself. And you can kind of get an interesting experience from having it, snake around and loop back on itself, and you can kind of visualize things differently. Anti-aliasing has recently got my interest, but also anisotropic filtering. What are your thoughts on that? That's never been as big a deal to me. That sort of sharpens how things look in the distance, so it's more believable. However, and that's always had a real low performance impact. So, you know what I've found actually though, unless you have excellent anti-aliasing, I've actually found the shimmering from incomplete anti-aliasing bothers me less if I have anisotropic filtering off or real low instead of just have like trilinear filtering. Because then it gets a little blurry, but then, I don't know, it just doesn't stand out as much. Now, of course, the picture looks a little nicer, but that's always been more of like a fine-tuned detail change that never bothered me that much. I'm sure some people feel that way about anti-aliasing, but man, I love anti-aliasing, and I'll take that any day. Unfortunately, it's pretty demanding performance-wise, but I always try to have some level of it. I mean, unless it's like a pixel art thing, in which case it's totally different. Okay, I'm skipping a few more questions. Someone's asking about Stadia and tradition of game modding. Yeah, man, well, Stadia, as far as I'm concerned, Stadia is the enemy now because they're pushing exclusive games. So that means they are directly getting in the way of, they're directly enabling games being destroyed. So, because you can have a game exclusive to a platform, but if you can run that offline, you know, to the end of time, well, then that's not actually destroying the game. But Stadia, by definition, as soon as they end support, the game's dead. So I just see them as part of the problem on many levels. Well, they're making it easy for me because if they weren't doing that, you know, you could have, they'd probably still be an enabler of this where, you know, let's say they had no exclusive games. They would try to warm people up to the idea more and more of just having no control over your games at all, which would still be part of the problem, to be honest. However, there would also be the legitimate use that you just don't want to buy something expensive. You would just want to try out all these games and streaming. And that is legit. You know, I'm not against that as an option, but the problem is the industry is so hell-bent on destroying games that they're just using it as a stepping stone towards something worse. So if they were actually acting with consumer interest in mind, or just people who want to own a game in mind, and would just never take it that further step where, you know, the game's tied with that, then I'd be all right with that. But that's not the industry that we live in. So, and so it's the enemy. That's as far, that's the easiest way to look at it. It's the enemy. I'll talk about that more in the follow up to the Games as a Service video. Okay, I answer this. This only has one point. I'll answer this quick. Any thoughts about Valve's recently released VR hardware? It may be the best middle of the road option. I think it might. I've heard it's the best in comfort, and like it's second best in a few things. I think, like it might be second best for field of vision after the Pimax. And the controllers, well, they might be the best, but then I heard they also have problems with them. So they certainly have the most options, I think, at most part. But it's a mix. It's like all the other VR headsets. They're a mix. It's a mix of everything. So, but it is supposed to be like a higher end one. So this is why I would love if I could just try one out for a little bit and then try another one out. And then I could just know, you know. So. What games have you played for fun since the last video chat? You know what? In the first week, I tried one game. I ended up giving up on it, but it's like I wanted to like it, but it upset me. Lichdom Battle Mage, where it's a gorgeous game. The plot seemed all right. And the combat was just, I found it really frustrating. It was just way too... It's like, imagine Painkiller, something like that, where there's enemies coming at you, and imagine all of your weapons either being kind of weak or taking like 5 to 10 seconds to properly charge them. It's like, no, they're coming at you too fast for that crap. I just want to go pop, 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 like if they're throwing that much stuff at me. And that's, the game has stuff going for it, for sure, but I just found it too frustrating. And then since that first week, I haven't played anything. Like I'm actually going a little stir crazy, and I might try to play a little bit more like kind of work. That's another reason I definitely want to do the Castlevania stuff this month, because I was just working on things pretty much, or I'd be working on things, and then by the end of the day, I would just be too exhausted to want to spend the mental energy to install a new game and learn the ropes of it. So I would just watch something instead. But I definitely want to try more this time. So I'll have an answer next time. I'm probably going to do almost exclusively like spooky games this month. So why don't you post more in this subreddit? Because time management, man. I'd rather either be playing a game or working on something new. Sorry. It's like, You know what? Spending a bunch of time replying to stuff is the perfect way to fall behind and not get stuff done. So it's like I'd rather kind of go more work hard, play hard. You know, either just enjoy the hell out of myself or work on something I really want to, or that you guys are really going to appreciate, that sort of thing. So it's just, I'm being pushed to extreme. Sorry about that. Let's see. Okay, something about editing. Yeah, email me about that, I guess. And if you already did email me, yeah, let me say this. If you ever email me about something important, or if it's like time sensitive, and I haven't replied in a while, you can email me again. It's okay. You know, I eventually plan to get back to almost all the emails, you know, reply, but I can fall behind. So I think I replied to almost everyone as of yesterday related to the Dead Game News one, because I really want to push that one forward. So, I mean, with the French consumer group. Okay, getting close to the end. Let's see, another dangerous question. What's your favorite Halloween candy? Well, since I'm a little less tempted by candy, I'll answer that. I'd say probably three-way tie. I don't know, probably Reese's peanut butter cups. And others would be, I guess, either candy corn or peppermint patties. Those are good too. Ross, what do you think about software to make games easily, like RPG Maker, Game Maker, Godot? Hey, the more, look, tools to help somebody make their dream game is only a good thing, you know? Do you know what happened to Noesis? No, I don't. I haven't followed up on that forever. I'm pretty sure they violated my contract at one point, but it was more just, it's more like everything was a mess and not sinister the way Machinima was. Oh, somebody's making a Brutal Legend reference, which I haven't played, so sorry, I don't know the. I can't comment on that. Brutal Legend looks like one maybe I could watch a playthrough of. I don't know. It didn't quite grab me. I don't know. It was sort of like halfway interested in. A lot of games are like that. Spoiled for choice now, you know, with games. Okay, skipping some more questions. Please add Metal Fatigue to your game list. I'll look it up. See if it qualifies. Yeah, the game list still is being added to, and actually there's a delay because I'm not the one adding the entries. Like, in fact, I need to email like 7 more entries on there. And at one point there could be just an absolute flood of abandonware that I'm going through, so. A lot of questions with 0 points. How do we know you're the real Ross Scott? Well, I think I'm real, so. I'm not worried if you think I'm real. That's the best answer I have. If nobody thinks I'm real, that doesn't significantly impact my life or how I feel about things. So. So I was talking about stereotypes. I hadn't heard of this one. Do you tell people that anything less than a .45 caliber bullet wound isn't worth going to the hospital for? No, I do not tell people that. I'm not sure how. You know what? I bet that wouldn't survive a MythBusters test. You know, don't do that, by the way. But I don't think that. No, you could do that with just not with real people, but just like a simulated dummy, like a anatomically similar dummy. You know, like for like medical students or something. I don't think that would hold up. I bet even a 22 would, depending where you shoot. You know. Let's see. Somebody's asking Minutia about the pulse rifle in Half-Life 2. I did notice it was kind of weird. Yeah, I'll have to. I'll see if that's worth commenting on when I get to it. For Freeman's Mind. And yes, I have seen the intro that somebody was sent. Okay, the chat can ask questions. I put 3 equal signs in front of your question so I can see it in IRC here. I did see the intro. I'm behind in replying to people about the intro. Unfortunately, that was a situation I ran into. Man, it was dumb luck I even got that custom intro up for Trackmania episode because I was so far behind on that by the time I'm ready to go, I'm like, oh God, now I got to go through the custom intros and see which ones I want to put up. So I'll try to stay on top of that, but I can't. I have your email though. If you send me a custom intro or sort of a sample for it, then I'll get to it eventually. It's just it would be really great if I had a secretary. But the thing is, there's too much on the line as far as giving somebody else access to my email. So I'm afraid I'm not going to be able to do that. Ross, have you ever skipped a day of exercise? How does it affect your productivity? Yeah, I skip it when I'm sick. Or, I mean, I used to more in the past, but I want to say just, I don't know, maybe not 10 years, probably like 7 years, something like that. It's been almost every day. Or times when I was trying to make a deadline, sometimes I skipped it. I didn't like it. How does it affect your productivity? It doesn't help. It kind of makes concentration worse and definitely lowers my productivity some. And I don't always run every day. I mean, sometimes I could just do like a hike, or hike for an hour or something, then come back. Wouldn't Valve just pay their fine to the French court, which is 3,000 euros every day for up to 6 months, which is nothing for a company as big as Valve? Oh, I'm sure they'll do that, but I'm not sure where that goes from there. And you know what? That might actually be the best case scenario. Maybe, if the French law may not work like this. Or let's say they do that, and then it just doesn't get followed up on after that. Well, that's awesome because then it's not really disrupting, I mean, from my perspective, it's not really disrupting the industry, but now we have precedent. And man, I want to make it more painful to destroy your game than to not. And again, from the design phase, it can be so much less work and cost to the company. If they know they're going to have a version or, server software or source code or something to release upon shutdown, if they know that's a requirement from the beginning, it is just the amount of work is the impact it would have is nothing financially compared to so many other measures, like allowing used game sales. It would never rise to that level, I think. But especially if this goes on to, oh yeah, okay, hey, I'm sorry, I forgot another question for the audience. This affects how I'm going to contact the consumer group. I, of course, have my own opinion, and if I just don't get a better answer, I'll just go with my best take on it. How does free-to-play stuff affect, how does this new law affect free-to-play stuff? Like, what's everybody's weigh-in on that for people who have, who aren't just completely blind guessing and have some idea of how the law, either French or European Union laws work? Because that affects how I plan to appeal for them when I contact the consumer group. So yeah, because or maybe I did mention that. Not truly free games, but free to play where, you pay for something, some feature or item in a game. So, okay, I should keep going. Ross, do you like what Epic Games is doing by releasing free games every week or sometimes bundles? Like 6 Batman video games to convince, I missed that one. To convince people to use their launcher. Yeah, that's fine. I mean, look, I think even the people who hate Epic Games and the launcher because of the exclusives, I don't think there's that many that hate them just because of releasing free games. Like, yeah, here's free games, use our launcher. Okay, now, I mean, I guess some people have said there's like a real privacy risk, which I kind of feel like almost everything is at this point, but maybe they're worse than usual. They could see that as like, that they're being reckless and this is bad behavior. So there is that argument, but I'm fine with free games. I mean, geez, I've grabbed, again, except for a plugin for the Unreal Engine, I haven't bought anything from from Epic Store, but I have like a dozen or more games on there. That's how I played Subnautica. There's a couple others on there I plan to play. So yeah, I mean, you mentioned before that you didn't really like school, even though you enjoy learning. Well, it depends what I'm learning. I mean, if I really have zero interest in a topic and I don't feel it has much importance, then I probably don't even like the learning. But what would be the most ideal form of education in your opinion? Boy, I don't feel like I'm qualified to answer that. I guess what I would have would be sort of like partially a range of like useful skills useful in life that like I had one class, I didn't really enjoy it, but it's useful enough. It was optional. It was like an accounting class. I kind of ended up hating that, but yeah, that the thing is, I've always been able to do a budget just as far back as I can remember. Yeah, the best way to learn how to budget is to have so little money for the stuff that you're after that you have. That's the only way to it, But yes, some people could absolutely use some help learning to like budget things, or maybe like well, this would become outdated, but maybe you could learn the general process, like learning taxes or process for voting, or just some general repair skills. I mean, they can touch some of that, but you might want to make some of that mandatory. And then you can have I think history is pretty important. History, math, science. See, I don't know. There's only so much time for everything. And I kind of feel like maybe some topics go deeper than the average person needs. However, they should have the general education. And then for the people who want to know just everything, then that's an elective, or you're required to have a few elective courses that you go deeper in on. Like, not everyone needs to know advanced chemistry or biology, but they should probably know some basics of things. Like, well, hey, we had an incident in our kitchen where I knew that baking soda puts out fires. And Magda actually didn't know that. And I was thinking, well, that's kind of a useful one to know, for as far as chemistry. Actually, yeah, she told that to her friends. They were like, oh, like they didn't know that. I guess that wasn't part of education where, yeah, if you have an electrical fire or a grease fire or something, baking soda is great to have around, But, yeah, I think I might have more of an emphasis on practical things, have more kind of beginner classes, just general exposure things. Because, you want to know some basic math and basic science. But, maybe not everybody really needs to be knowing calculus. And then have those as like kind of elective classes where, fine, like once you get farther up in school, you get allocated so many elective courses. So then you get to choose whether you're going into chemistry or like learning more about history or something like that. I mean, like the deeper levels. But that's just, look, I am in no way qualified to state what's best for education. I'm sure there's people who have much bigger stake in that than I do. And research on it. If I won the lottery, would you let me live with you? I guess I have to check with my wife, Well, again, this goes back to what do we do for long-term survival positioning, I mean, because, you may not have a choice. You go over a long enough time period. So I haven't played Return of the Obra Dinn. It didn't quite grab me from the onset, but a lot of people say it's great, so maybe I'll check it out eventually. Again, it's like so many options, guys. It's Ross, in the possible future where VR can be connected to you like what Switch or Pokemon Go does, would use it to exercise as well in real life. Yeah, maybe. I mean, well, that's part of what I'd be doing anyway, but I'd just be kind of probably going for walks in like VR. So, not heavy exercise. I'd be happy to do a heavy exercise in VR. However, you might come into the amount of sweat you're going to produce off of that and the amount of having something heavy on your head may not be that big of an issue if you're just kind of sitting down or walking around. But if you're really going at it, that might become more irritating. So I don't know. I'd certainly be open-minded towards it. Like if the technology got the least amount of intrusive, absolutely. Like somebody has mentioned Star Trek earlier. I was remembering a Star Trek: The Next Generation episode where I think Worf's like with his son and they're doing this sort of jungle hunt exercise in the holodeck. I was like, yeah, that'd be friggin' awesome for hunting some monsters or aliens with your blaster running through the jungle like it's an obstacle course. That'd be an awesome way to exercise. So I think once you get into exercise, and you got to make sure you have good ventilation so you're getting enough oxygen, the requirements for like real exercise start going up with VR. That it'll work for some people, maybe not for others, but have you had any first-hand experience with cults? Not officially, no. I guess I've seen people kind of have sort of cult-like behavior, but nothing to the extent. It was never to the point where like, yeah, they're gonna sacrifice somebody or something. It's more like you get a rigidity in thinking where you can deny reality right in front of you. So it's that can get tricky, but no, I haven't had unless I'm forgetting something. Have you heard of the initiative of the Japan Writers Guild Association, the game's preservation? It's only regarding the game scripts and not the code and assets, but it's quite the progress. I'm not too worried about that, because if you really want to preserve a game script, you don't need permission. You can just go do it. Go transcribe the sucker, or I guess the only games you might have trouble with is if you have these games where it has like incredibly long odds or just an immense amount of skill or branching pathways where in order to get that specific portion of the script, you would have to just do inhuman things to get into the game. But you get the vast majority of game scripts and just put them up. Or I guess there might be copyright issues, but you know what? That's what, you have something like Pastebin to get around that. So after noticing how large your game list is, what's your process for adding games to it? If I see a game, I'm thinking, yeah, this looks promising. I think I might want to check this out. I write down the title. And then I kick that off to a volunteer assisting with adding in an entry. And maybe eventually we'll get game descriptions. This is the same process I've always had. So if the game looks like something I think I might want to play, then yeah, it goes on the list. Ross, because of the late Gmail stealth delete of emails, has it probably blocked one of my emails as well, which relates to piracy? So I'm asking you on here, what is the best pirate site to find cracked games that isn't dangerous and has viruses? I don't know, man. I guess in like the real old day, I don't even know. I don't know, because at one point I was part of a private tracker site that was specifically for abandonware. So, but the problem is they would bleed over in the stuff that was just old and was not abandonware. I think they eventually got shut down. I think it was, and I don't know what's emerged since then. So, like, and if it was just, if you're just talking about cracked games, I don't know, because those can come with viruses a lot of the time. I mean, unless somebody has like the source for them. I mean, Game Copy World is the best place to go for cracks, but that's not the same as cracked games. I'm not really trying to promote piracy, to be honest, because I mean, it's everything's a mess with copyright piracy and everything. So I'm trying to stick more to just black and white areas, like destroying games, or I mean, it's maybe not black and white, but abandonware. It's it's the sort of thing where if it's not even being sold anymore, that's what it's not. I kind of feel like people should just have access to that game, because who loses? Who loses from that? You know? So, I mean, I guess you have people who just are in the dark for like 20 years and then they re-release the game, but man, that's kind of, you needed to know that was coming. I feel like that kind of goes past the point of being reasonable about it. So I don't know, you can let me know, I guess, but I try to avoid general pirated stuff because there's like a whole, like let's say it's a game where like it is abandonware, or let's say I needed a pirated copy of the game to test something, like because that is a legit use of piracy. Let's say you own the game, but they changed something and you want to compare what happened. Well, like with the Trackmania. Yeah, the Trackmania is a perfect example. I own Trackmania Canyon, and I have a cracked copy of it backed up on disc too, because I wanted to see, and that's the only way to see the difference. When I do that, I have this whole pirating games can be a real pain, because I have this, to be safe about it, it can be a pain. Because I have this procedure. It's like, first, I like scan it with do antivirus on it just to make sure there's nothing real obvious that's popping up. And then I run it in a sandbox. No, I don't even do it in a sandbox. Well, it is a sandbox. I run it in a virtual machine. I run the installer in a virtual machine, and I have this program that detects what files it added and like what registry entries. And sometimes it's adding DLL files to like the Windows, like the root directory. And if you check later, yep, those are viruses. And it's so you gotta have real shields up for pirated games, I think. So I don't know. I'm sure there's options out there, but it's the sort of thing is once it gets discovered beyond a certain critical mass, some agency might come in and shut it down, which it's like tearing up Starfish and that'll pop up somewhere else. So plus this stuff just gives fuel to the fire for games as a service, even though they're totally using that in ways that are completely devoid of piracy. You know, I mean, who loses by pirating a free-to-play game, you know, once it's dead? So you think a story involving portals to other worlds would be awesome? Yeah, it just depends. I mean, there's a lot of things depend on the story, but yeah, it's a good premise. I mean, I can imagine so many kinds of worlds. So. People are talking about scam sites in the chat. Let's see. Okay, somebody's offering to translate in French. I have a few offers on that now, so that's good. Somebody's asking a question I answered in the chat, so you can watch the chat. What do you think is the true future of gaming and VR tech? I've seen some people say holodecks and others say mixed reality. I'm interested in your take. I have no idea. It could, see, this is the sort of thing, look, there's a chance VR always remains kind of niche interest. I mean, like I've compared to something like, I think it might be bigger than that, but like something like steering wheels. Most people don't have a steering wheel on a game, even if they play racing games. But yeah, there's a market for it. I mean, that's the thing. It offers something truly unique. So, I mean, I don't know. See, like even I'm sort of having doubts on how much I want it for actual gaming, but for walking simulators, yeah, it's the future. And I'm not even interested in mixed reality. I mean, making it more holodeck-like, sure, that might be neat, but then that might also take a lot more real world resources that might not be practical for a lot of people just in their own room or something. So I have no idea. I want to, what I'm focused on with VR is get as many game worlds VR compatible as possible. That's what I want. That's the number one thing I want for VR, because I feel like resolution, yeah, it's getting better. Like the field of vision, yeah, it might already be there with some of them. Color's good on a lot of them. I mean, so the software mostly seems fine. Mostly. Oculus giving me a lot of grief, but thankfully Oculus isn't the only option. But man, I want to get these game worlds. I want to get just normal 3D accelerated games into real stereoscopic 3D. And man, that is a real weak point right now. Like it's hit or miss, and it's mostly miss. That's what I would say. Okay, I'll answer a few more. Let's see. Have you considered playing Darkwood? Yeah, I normally don't like top-down games that much, but everybody keeps saying it's good, so maybe I should check it out. I don't know what the price is on it right now. Let's see. I don't think I have a copy of it. Oh, come on. Google's, the browser's being stupid. Okay. Well, right now it's $15. 15 bucks, so that's a bit rich for my blood these days. Because, if you wait, because yeah, it's only 30% off right now. So on Steam anyway. So man, you wait for the big sales, like 80, 90% off, and that's the time to buy stuff. Or just, man, it's like, or you just wait long enough. Sometimes games randomly come up. Okay, yeah, free to own for like 2 days, and if you grab it then. I usually try to put it on Twitter when I'm informed of that stuff. It's literally happening every month now. Usually multiple times that just some free game is popping up. What would you do if you found out you had an identical twin? I might try to contact them, see if they seem like they're a psycho or not. I don't know. I feel like I'm somebody who could have like gone many different directions. So. I'm not familiar with Buckethead, so. What's your opinion on things like Gmod? Do you think there are more games engines should have had their own versions of Gmod? Yeah, well, yeah, maybe. I mean, I'm still kind of on the lookout for like, it's not going to matter for the movie because they're just going ahead with Unreal and just put in the work that has to be done in order to make it happen. But it would be nice to have more options where you could kind of make a machinima more easily without having to have like a, more extensive technical background. Or just, man, I want game worlds ported to engines that are friendly with stereoscopic vision or VR, that you can do it, And man, the more that, the better as far as I'm concerned, so. Are you a fan of robot combat, like Robot Wars, BattleBots? Oh, he's talking like real robot combat. I kind of don't really care. I mean, it's not that interesting to me. I was thinking in games, if it's like, if there's lots of spectacle behind it, like, like Supreme Commander level, like we have robots all over the place blowing stuff up. I like that, but yeah, real robots, I guess it just doesn't interest me that much. I was thinking I'd probably be more interested in watching like a prank video of like a robot attacking a person. I mean, not like dangerous levels, but like, those MIT videos that they'll have sometimes of that one that kind of walks around and some of its motions are human-like. I wouldn't mind seeing a prank of something like that, just like burst into some guy's dorm room and like start like, when I say attack, I'm talking like, like 1950s level robot attack, like just coming towards them, or just like a light punch or something. That'll be fun to watch. Although you're running a risk with that because the robot would probably be very expensive and the roommate would probably attack it, or the person you're playing the prank on. So it's not really meant to be competitive combat, though. Who knows? I guess conceivably you could program a martial arts robot. I think the martial art. I'll be surprised if the martial arts robots win though against like an actual martial arts expert. But for like a prank thing where the person doesn't know what the hell's going on, that could have fun material. Is no one lives forever considered abandonware? Maybe. Well, I guess if we go by the internet rules that I raised in the Carnival episode, asked what people thought, then yes, they're basically the rule. What the internet decided on was that if the game is just no longer for sale, like through normal means, you have to go through like third-party retailers or something, or people on eBay or something to get a copy of it. Then because the company is just not selling the game anymore, then yeah, it's okay to pirate it. So. And someone's asking if I'm talking about making like sound fonts for MIDI. Yes, that offer is still open, but I've been so busy I haven't been able to follow up on it. So I guess email me about it, and maybe later I'll try. Could hopefully not too much later, but it could be a while. I'll be honest. I'm totally still interested in having like real quality, custom tailored renditions of different MIDI music, especially for games, old games. So. The movie is not coming out in the next few months. Sorry, I got detoured too hard, earning a living and reacting to the YouTube floundering above water. But real progress is happening on it lately, so I'm quite encouraged by that. I'll give another update at the end of the year. Still not where I want to be, but it's like Freeman's Mind. I keep pushing forward. I'm not where I wanted to be in Freeman's Mind. It should have been done by now if that's all I was doing. But, yes, I do remember the montage rock, though I forgot to look it up. Where do you think the future of Google Stadia is going to end up? I hope it dies. I heard they sold out, which I'm surprised. See, I'm not always correct with these predictions. I wouldn't have thought, I thought the iPhone wasn't gonna just explode the way it does. Cause like, geez, that's really expensive for a phone. How many people, isn't that just gonna be like a luxury item? How many people are gonna use that? Next thing I know, Apple's like the biggest company ever because they're selling these to everyone or on the planet. So yeah, what did I know? So I wouldn't trust my business predictions on most things because I don't necessarily know enough of what's in play. I mean, I would hope that the drawbacks of having streaming make it a negative proposition for enough people, and I hope that sold out is just a bunch of people just wanting to see what it's about or doing reviews or stuff, and then it just falls off a cliff. I hope that's what happens. The worst case scenario is if the general public decides, yeah, this is good enough, this is easy, I'm just gonna do this. And then that shifts the entire industry, and then just games that you own or can play on your own machine start becoming the niche. That'll be the worst case scenario. So honestly, I could see either happening, but I hope it doesn't. So. Yeah, someone's mentioning Hard Truck 2 King of the Road. I have a copy of that. That's in my game archive, but I haven't played through it yet. Yeah, just sort of a general driving exploration game. I want to play more of those. Russ, do you ever watch an anime? I have seen some anime before. I haven't seen anime in a long time. It's not really my thing. You seem to like pranks. Do you have any personal experiences with them yourself? Yeah, though that's a long question, though. I'd have to think about. But like this, I never did any like sadistic pranks, but I've certainly witnessed others do sadistic pranks, and some of this stuff I probably should have mentioned out loud. So, like, or maybe sadistic's too strong a word, but like stuff that's like way above like you're going to jail for this, like stuff like. I mean, yeah, sadistic's too strong a word. I think it was never, but stuff where like, yeah, you're messing with somebody pretty hard, you know. Magda says the food has arrived, so you can come out and eat anytime you want. That's great because I'm hungry. Okay, I should probably wind it down. I'll just pick out a few more. Wow, only 4 minutes behind. I'm acing it this time. I mean, I still don't try to have these things be 3 hours, even though that's what ends up happening lately. Have any game companies ever reached out to you for anything? I am getting offers all the time to promote some mobile games. Like, and they're like, what's your price? It's like, I feel, what my attitude about that is? I feel like if I'm unless that stuff just pays a king's ransom, if I'm having to do that in order to stay afloat on YouTube, then to me, that's the canary in the coal mine that this isn't working and I'm gonna have to figure out some other way to support myself because that's too precarious for me. I don't want that. But as far as game companies, I can't really think of any. I can think of. I've heard of a couple people who've worked at a game company before. I have had a couple of those, but I have played Morrowind. It wasn't my favorite, even though some people love it. I think my biggest problem is I played that after playing Gothic, and I thought Gothic was better. So. I mean, not that you can't enjoy both, but it's one of those that kind of made for a comparison at the time, you know? How much of yourself do you pour into Freeman's in terms of opinions and personality? I don't know. I think in the past, I guess 15%. It may be a little more lately, so I got to kind of get back to where he was. So, I mean, Freeman's more over the top and not. It's much more of an ego, just. I think the parts I think the parts that like is more myself is if I'm imagining myself in a panic situation, like I have time for this, I gotta go right now, like that part's pretty authentic. Like if I'm in a real panic situation, yeah, I'm like quit all this screwing around stuff, go right now, So yeah, Freeman panicking and running over police or something like that. Yeah, that part's probably pretty authentic towards how I am. But I'm not usually in those situations, and I like to keep it that way. So, but I'm imagining if I was like that, I'd have to think more about what else is also like me. So, do you prefer characters or the themes of a story? Oh, for sure, themes. He's mentioning Ian Flux. I mean, yeah, easily. I mean, occasionally a character can really stand out and be great also, but it's if I can't think of something offhand where I don't like where I like the character, but I don't like the theme. Therefore, I like the whole thing as a whole. No, I have to kind of like the theme. Somebody thinks I owe them a donut. I'm not sure why. So, okay, that's a good place to stop this. I'm gonna go eat. Stuff coming for Halloween. Streaming and videos and hopefully more Freeman. I'll for sure finish another Freeman minus sound effects, which I'm not the one at. Although, you know what? I did do the final editing on that, well, I did all the volume balancing, so you can blame any of that on me for the last Freeman's mine. But the one, I was able to handle it because it was a shorter episode. That part where the rocket whizzes past his face, William came up with a sound effect, but I just wasn't happy with how he was mixing it. Like, no, like right across your face, like right across, like there. So that was my mixing based on, and he had gone to bed by the time I was like ready to release, I think. So I didn't have time to get from there. So that was my little intervention mix there for the rocket whizzing right across there. Okay, so yeah, that's it. More stuff coming. More stuff coming.